Happy Tuesday, everybody! Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. Glad to have you with us. We got a fun one lined up for you. Brought to you by our friends over at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Little Bird told me Patrick and Michelle are actually going to be in here today during the hot lunch. Looking forward to that and the delicious food that they are sure to provide. On top of that, they're giving you an opportunity to win some Utah Mammoth tickets. Get in there during the month of January. Tell them that you heard about Big Willie's on the Sean O'Connell Show. They're going to put your name in the hat for 2 club-level tickets to a February Utah Mammoth game. All you got to do is listen to this show and then go to 1717 South Main, enjoy the vibes, enjoy the drinks, enjoy the food, and say, oh, yeah, by the way, I heard about this on the Sean O'Connell Show. Can I enter my name to win those Mammoth tickets? And they will say, yeah, of course. They'll take your name down. They'll put it in a little fish bowl, and then they'll draw it. I think February 4th is the day that we decided. Gordy Chase is going to swing by here in about half an hour. Jerem Jordan for some red and blue at noon. Jeff Schwartz, 1 o'clock. And I've been told J.B. Long is coming on at 1:30. We missed him yesterday because there was a confusion about Pacific time, Mountain time, which happens.
JB voiced the Rams. Everyone knows that by now. You hear him over on the Fan. He lives in L.A. area, of course, being the voice of the Rams. So, yeah, sometimes our time zones get mixed up. So we're doing a bit of we're trying again today. I made it more clear. 1:30 Mountain Time, 12:30 Pacific. So I feel good about getting him on today.
I do have a little bit of angst about the fact that we are the forgotten time zone. No one ever lists Mountain Time for anything except if you live in Mountain Time.
It's true.
Pacific Time people think theirs is the only one that matters. East Coast people think theirs is the only one that matters. All of the television games and things like that nationally, they're listed at the Eastern Time start, and Central would be the next, and no one ever considers us here in Mountain Time, even though it is the best time zone for watching sports by far.
It is, and listen, it's pretty clear to me why we're forgotten. East Coast, you got all that population, all those population centers in East Coast, and biggest of which, of course, New York City. West Coast, you got a bunch of population centers too. L.A. being the biggest, San Francisco too, and then Central Time, you got Chicago, huge population center. You got a bunch of those in the upper Midwest too. Mountain, I mean, you got Denver. You have Phoenix is technically Mountain Time, although they're weird because they don't do the daylight savings.
They're only Mountain Time half the year. Right?
Yeah, and then you got Salt Lake City. Those are just. There's just way less people, so the people that don't live here don't think that it exists, but it does, right?
Shots fired on Boise, not even being mentioned.
Okay,
here.
You're right, Boise.
Okay, wow.
Shout out to Boise.
Bozeman, Montana's very upset at you right now. It's fine, James.
Okay,
but
screw Bozeman.
The Mountain Time Zone is neglected and overlooked, and that's fine.
Cheyenne, Wyoming.
And you know what? Vegas is Pacific Time Zone. We can't even.
Yeah, Vegas isn't even mountain.
We can't even add them to our list of overlooked metropoli.
So there you go.
Is it metropolises or metropoli? Doesn't matter. All right. There are 8 NFL head coaching jobs open. Will there be a 9th after last night? Texans win 30-6 over the Steelers, and it has that heavy feeling of perhaps being an end of an era in Pittsburgh. They haven't won a playoff game since 2017, which in the NFL is an eternity. Now, this is a proud franchise. This is a storied championship caliber franchise that the expectations, more reasonably than in a lot of places, are, hey, we got to be Super Bowl competitors, and you can't win playoff games. By definition, you're not a Super Bowl competitor. And it begs this question that I think is going to hit close to home for a lot of people here in the state of Utah, because you have to ask yourself, if you're a member of a fan base like this one, if you're part of the Steelers faithful. What do they call themselves? Do they call themselves something? It's 49ers faithful. It's Bills Mafia. Bang, bang, Niner gang. All right. The Seahawks fans call themselves the 12s. Do the Steelers call themselves anything?
It's boring. Steeler Nation. It applies because they are literally the fan base.
Have a
literally
large
is
nationwide fan base
all over the nation, but it's boring.
That is a boring one.
How about Steel City something? Steel Curtain something.
The Steel City Suckers. Whatever.
Suckers.
But you
towel waivers.
In every place in sports, you have to ask yourself at some point if good is the enemy of great. And that's where the Steelers might be right now. Because as long as Mike Tomlin is there, they're going to be good. And Mike Tomlin has probably coached them into playoff contention scenarios when their roster didn't dictate that. And now he's getting blamed for, because this is what happens when you're the head coach, you have to produce. He's getting blamed for the fact that they haven't won these playoff games, that getting there is no longer good enough and probably shouldn't be for a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers. The goalposts move a lot when you're talking about the Houston Texans, who are happy to be here. When you're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's a different level of calculus. If we're talking about somebody like the Cincinnati Bengals, who it's been such a long time since they won anything, right? Are we going to see Mike Tomlin's name add to the elephant graveyard of head football coaches this NFL offseason? And if so, I mean, how appealing is that job? How big of a job is that? And does that job come with the inheritance of Aaron Rodgers, who he was a little grumpy last night, but Aaron Rodgers defied my expectations this year, getting the Steelers to the playoffs, and he himself staying mostly out of the distracting headlines. Is good the enemy of great to an extent that you don't want a good coach anymore? This is something for Utah in basketball, for Utah in football especially, that a lot of people, especially after last night, and we're going to get to the Celeste Moa situation, okay? A lot of people have zoomed out and taken a look at the career and the legacy of he who shall not be named, the current Michigan head coach, and they've said, man, is good the enemy of great in that situation? Because there's absolutely zero doubt that he is a good coach. I think he's a great coach. But how many great teams did he coach up and put together? Like great ones, truly great ones that achieved championship caliber success. 3 is the answer, by the way. When you talk about good years versus great years, 3 great years, this last year a very, very good year. And I think it's a little bit silly to expect on a regular basis more than very, very good. I was heavily critical of some decisions that were made in that BYU game that separated good from great. So maybe I am actually, without consciously identifying myself as this, maybe I'm on the team of the people who are just like, that needed to happen. Go away. Time to be gone. You're now embarking in an era in college football where you can't be good if you're Utah football. You have to be great. And Morgan Scalley and his assistant staff and the players, especially this first crop of players that are his first team that he's the head coach of, these guys have some heavy responsibility to shoulder in setting the foundation and laying a stage for greatness to grow from. Do I expect year one to be a great year, to be a conference championship year? I expect to be in the conversation. I expect to play tough against a schedule that sets up pretty well for the University of Utah. I expect that, you should be in like week 8, 9 saying, all right, here's where the tiebreakers exist. If you win this and they lose that, I don't think it's reasonable to say, yep, win it all the first year, be undefeated the first year, especially given some of the attrition from both the coaching staff and from the player personnel. But I was thinking last night as I watched the end of that Steelers game, like, all right, the Steelers are a good team. And the Steelers look like they're going to stay a good team as long as that guy's there. Are they ever going to be a great team again? Has he lost the fastball? Is it a personnel thing and not a Mike Tomlin thing? Can you separate those two? Was Aaron Rodgers an asset or a hindrance based on what they wanted to do this year? Do you factor in injuries to the demolition at the hands of the Houston Texans last night? I mean, if you're owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have to look at things and say, all right, what is standing in the way of our greatness, of our potential greatness? Well, we haven't really had a franchise quarterback in a while, not a real one. We haven't really hit on the draft picks the way that I would like to. We don't have the household names that we used to have. Do I need to make a change at the top in order to achieve what we're talking about here? And there's a strong contingent of Ute fans who are screaming at their radios right now saying, yes, this is exactly what I've been talking about. This is exactly why I'm rejoicing over the fact that he who shall not be named is now the head coach of Michigan instead of at the University of Utah, because he was really good, but he wasn't great. I don't know if I agree with that, but I understand that that mentality exists for some of the fan base. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people, Dan Patrick was talking about this, there's going to be a lot of people who say if the Steelers move on from Mike Tomlin, what a mistake that is. Because national perception of Mike Tomlin is that he's still an excellent coach, that he still does have the fastball, that circumstances are more responsible for the fact that you've been on this playoff win drought in Pittsburgh, and that the next team to pick up Mike Tomlin if Pittsburgh moves on is the lucky one here. There's a strong national perception that that's the case with Utah football. We're going to have to let it play out, because there's plenty of locals that are just like, no, man, it was time, and it is time, and I'm ride or die with Morgan Scalley now, and this was always the right decision. This was always the right time. This was the right move, and it's one that was set up by the man himself for years. So that's the difference between the Utah situation and the Steelers situation. But are you the type of sports fan? I should put a poll up. I didn't. Are you the type of sports fan that wants your team to be in the playoff hunt every year but not win a championship, really? Do you want to be like the respectable, and in college sports and pro sports is a little bit different, but like, because the college sports thing matters just as much here, and it's been a long time since the Jazz were this type of team where you were respectable with, the Jerry Sloan years, you had the greatness, you would have won championships if Michael Jordan had never been born, kind of a situation. You were always in the playoffs. You were always right there. And even after John and Carl were gone, you had Booz and you had Darren Williams and you had Andre Kirilenko and you had Mehmet Okur. And those teams were good teams. Those teams were respectable teams. Those teams were, heck yeah, let's get to the Delta Center and let's watch these teams play. But you never really thought that they were going to win you an NBA championship.
Speak for yourself, OC.
There's not a person.
16-year-old me thought.
You did not think
I did.
Mehmet Okur was going to hoist you a Larry O'Brien.
No, I could tell you, I felt like that Jazz team, the 07 and 08 teams with D. Will and Boozer, I did think that they were probably closer than they actually were as a high schooler.
While Shaq and Kobe existed in the NBA.
Well, Shaq was a shell of himself at that point, but Kobe still was in their way. Yeah,
I mean,
and they almost took him down. I
admire the idealism of youth. So
yeah,
that's great. But I don't know that
They weren't as close as I thought.
I don't know that
they
the grown adults that were watching those teams thought that they were going to win you an NBA championship.
Well, those adults, you being one of them, knew the goods as far as Jazz history went, had just passed. Like, we saw teams that could win championships here. They're much better. The Stockton Malone-led teams were much better than this team, which is a nice team.
Nice team. Very nice team. And again, nothing to sneeze at. I mean, you had Olympians on that team. Yeah. You had All-Stars on that team. They made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals that one year. Like, there were good things about that team.
If Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant and LeBron James didn't exist, Dwight Howard didn't exist, maybe they could have been champions, again, which is not that close again.
And look, and the Jazz are so far from the Jazz are so far away from this right now.
They so are.
And you look at the Utah Mammoth, right, who we expect to be in that playoff hunt, and they're right there in that bubble conversation where we thought they would be, where they projected themselves to be, right? And it's like, okay, this is an awesome team. This is a fun team. We like this team. We love this team. We don't want to change anything about this team. You are going to get to a point, not this year. You are going to get to a point where Ryan Smith, the entertainment group, Bear Turney, Bill Armstrong, they have to make some decisions on whether or not good is the enemy of great. They have to make some decisions on like, hey, man, we love Veggie. Vemelka has been awesome, but has he been good enough? Can we see him putting together like a Bobrovsky-type run in the Stanley Cup playoffs and into the finals? And I hate using Veggie as the example because I love that guy, but, I mean, he's had one shutout this year. And that's part of the nature of the changing world in NHL hockey, but it's also part of, are you going to have that conversation? Not this year, you're not. The Jazz right now, are in a different kind of is good the enemy of great because they're good enough to not be the worst team in the league and potentially lose a draft pick. So just barely good is a big-time enemy of great potentially for Jazz in their future.
Yeah, and I think this is the right fan base to be asking this type of question to, because I think in the Stockton Malone days, I think in the D. Will Boozer days, I found myself, and I only saw the tail end of the Stockton Malone days. That I remember the finals runs barely, right? And then I remember them trying to continue that at the end of their careers and then not being able to. Even with that little bit of glimpse of the glory days of the Jazz, I found myself in the D. Will Boozer days going, this isn't good enough. Being good is not good enough. You have to contend for championships. You have to win a championship at some point. And so I think that there's a whole other generation now that never tasted that never saw that kind of thing. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert notwithstanding, that era notwithstanding, that may not have that perspective, but there's enough that remember both of those eras that were probably felt the way I did. We're like, no, it's not okay just to be good. Good is the enemy of great. And a lot of those fans are BYU and Utah fans too.
Well, look, and BYU football this year was in that situation where they were like, wow, we have a really, really good team. And they did. The team was borderline great. They just weren't. I mean, it was very similar to that 98 Jazz or whatever.
From a one conference perspective.
From a one conference perspective, not from a national perspective.
Yeah.
But from your conference, right? Like, if Texas Tech didn't have the roster they had this year, then BYU was the best team in the conference. And we saw every other game that we needed to see. BYU beat every other team that was good in the conference.
And they did it facing adversity in every good team they faced. They were down in that game, and they still overcame it. So they proved that no matter what, they were good enough to maybe win the conference if Texas Tech didn't exist. Yeah.
So if you're a BYU fan, right, and they've done a remarkable job of roster retention this year, do you know how massive it is that Faletau Satawala is not in the transfer portal right now? Do you know how huge that is? Because I promise you Jay Hill wants that guy to go to Michigan.
Absolutely.
Like, it's insane to me that hasn't happened. You have to give credit where it's due for BYU, and I know Utah fans hate this, but they just have the money to do it, right? It's not like those conversations didn't happen. It's not like Kalani Sitake is an ignorant person or naive to the fact that, like, oh, this is one of the best young players in college football right now, and his guy just went to a blue blood. And we saw it with Celestimo yesterday. We saw it with John Henry Daly. We saw it with Jonah Lea'ea. We saw it with, like, those guys have relationships with, especially Lewis Powell, but with that Michigan staff, and that's why they're gone. That's a huge reason why they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And Faletau Satawala has that relationship with Jay Hill. He also has it with Gennaro Guilford. He also has it with Kelly Papinga. He also has it with guys that are still at BYU, and they've got the funds to say, hey, just stay put. And look, they got 3 more days to hold the door. They got 3 more. You like Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not that long ago. You asked what was the best HBO series, and I said I hadn't seen any one of those. I'm caught up on Game of Thrones. I'm getting caught up on The Wire.
All right, I like it, James.
I'm getting there.
Welcome, James. But BYU was in that situation this year where they're just like, wow, this really, really, really good team. Is there anything on this team, in this organization, that is the enemy of great? Do we not have the wide receivers? Do we not have the offensive line play? Do we not have the turnover generators on defense? I mean, and for BYU, by the way, it was a lot harder to sift through and say, well, what are we lacking here? Because Parker Kingston had a great year. Chase Roberts was capable of having a much better year than he did. Carson Ryan ended up having a phenomenal year. Your quarterback was this surprise freshman revelation. I think if you're BYU, you probably say, I think our offensive line could have been a little bit better, but they still did a great job. LJ Martin was the offensive player of the year. You can't say there's a problem at the running back position. I don't know, 877-353-0700. If you're a BYU fan, what good was the enemy of your great this year? For Utah football fans, there's a couple of things. There were plenty of people who said, all right, the old guy is really, really good, and that is becoming the enemy of great for us. He is the thing standing in the way of us achieving what we could be achieving. Again, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I can jump on board with that, but we're going to find out if Morgan Scalley is better suited to maximize what he can put together, right? There also was that conversation around the quarterbacks this year many times because you had an addled Devin Dampier, who all indications still point to the idea. No news, I think, is good news here. All indications pointing to the idea that you probably, hopefully, knock on wood, throw the salt, do whatever your superstition is. You hopefully see Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin battling it out in spring ball and fall camp, that you can utilize both of those guys. But that was a conversation for Utah football fans, particularly with the arm talent. An injured Devin Dampier, who even in an ideal situation doesn't have the most NFL-ready rocket arm talent, is really good. You can't dispute. The numbers say so. The production says so. He's really, really good. Was that good, in any case, for Devin Dampier and for Utah football, the enemy of great? And there were a lot of Utah fans that started to get sucked into, well, but what could we be with Bird? What could we be if Bird was our full-time starter? Look what Bird could do. And we don't know still. We got one full start from Bird and a lot of cool package spot duty. And he looked phenomenal. And there are guys, NFL guys, that saw that and said, dude, that kid's incredibly talented. And by the way, Bird Ficklin is now, as far as I can tell, in 2025, 2026, he is the first Ute to make 2 I re-signed announcements. Did you notice that? We got the December Bird from his agent. Bird is re-signed. Everything's good. And then we got the official, like, let's make an Instagram graphic, a little Photoshop page of Bird running it back.
This most recent one has got to be transfer portal's still open, and I've heard a lot of people nervous about if I'm gonna enter or not. So this is me confirming I'm staying. That's got to be what's behind it, right? Not just simply, hey, my agent did the first one. This is the one that I want to do.
Yeah, and it might be.
Maybe it's just that, but
it also might be, and probably is, if we're being realistic, Michigan calling and saying, hey, man, we like this Underwood kid, but you know how it is. You're a snap away from being the starter here. We'll let you compete.
Telling them, no, I'm good here.
And it's probably Cal calling, and it's probably every other school that is, well, maybe not Cal because they've got the similar situation.
Yeah.
But it's probably every school, I mean, Arizona State maybe, being like, hey, we took a swing at Dev, big brother for you. He's making it difficult on us. What about you? Would you like to come down here and play? Like, there's absolutely no chance that Bird Ficklen's agent, Bird Ficklen's parents, Bird Ficklen's high school coach, whoever, was not getting a bunch of calls about what his plans were and was not getting a bunch of overtures for his services. Especially, by the way, with the attitude that he appears to have where, like, hey, I'm willing to compete. Because as far as we can tell, Bird Ficklen and Devin Dampier are both very happy with the idea of being on the roster together. Do you know how many quarterbacks of their talent and production capabilities would be territorial and be like, no, man, I don't want to be on that. Like, do you think Colorado called Isaac Wilson before they called Bird Ficklen? No chance. For many different reasons, there's no chance that that's the reality. So, Bird Ficklen's secondary announcement is, hey, yes, in December, this was the situation I wanted to be here. And even after the phone calls I got when this transfer portal opened, and even after some big numbers probably came across my agent's desk, I love Utah. I love the support I'm getting from Utah because last year's Bird Ficklen's salary and this year's Bird Ficklen's salary at Utah are wildly different. I can promise you that.
You were saying you were able to have, and I won't make you bring any of that to air, but that the Morgan Scalley introductory press conference, you doing the show up there and being there for that, you were able to have some conversations with some people who know these kind of things.
Talking with people who know face to face and hearing, by the way, how insanely below market value his deal was last year. And they were happy. Utah, again, to quell any rumors of the fact that Utah's not able or willing to compete on the NIL front, Utah was happy and able to bring him up to where a lot of people think someone like that should be.
Yeah, it may probably higher than market value for a backup quarterback, but around market value for like a quarterback in waiting, if you will. Right?
And for a guy more importantly, a guy who scored 10 touchdowns for a team.
Yeah, who was really important to your offense even though he was the backup. Absolutely.
Take the position out of it and be like, well, how much do we have to pay for 10 touchdowns last year? And this is kind of the number. And so Bird made the announcement, again, I'm coming back. And we circle back to the original point that is going to be a question anytime if Devin hurts his groin again, if his arm's a little funky again, if there's any issue with Devin Dampier again, then there's going to be people saying, ooh, we might have great waiting behind good. That's not a situation most teams deal with. Most teams are like, our starter's great, our backup's good. Utah feels like they've got two guys capable of greatness. Can you hang on to both of them because the transfer portal's open for another 3 days?
I'll just say this real quick, and then we can head to break, get to Gordy on the other side, as we do on Tuesdays. But does it make you just very in the far reaches of the back of your mind? I'm sure it does for some fans. Make you go, make you nervous that there's 3 days left and he's making the announcement now. Like, you'd almost prefer to be in the dark until it's closed and then tell us.
It
or
doesn't.
like the day before it's closed, tell us, because just programs and fans have been burned before with this amount of time that's left in this short transfer portal.
The reason it doesn't scare me now is because of the Damon Williams thing that happened at Washington.
Yeah, okay.
I think that
That's fair.
these guys are all operating under the advisement of agents for the most part, and most agents are not going to want to fight whatever battle Ross Dellinger dug up. Now, could be different with Big Ten and could be different with Big 12, but I think that we are all collectively growing into the idea that, like, this free agency now does have some rules.
Hopefully.
And look, it's much more of a Wild West than the NFL, but if you can get people to sign on the dotted line now, I think what we figured out with the Damon Williams situation is that those contracts are actually pretty enforceable. Thank goodness, because if it wasn't, we're screwed completely. We'll get back into this. I'm going to ask Gordy about good being the enemy of great. Started the conversation because of the Pittsburgh Steelers making the playoffs again, but haven't won a playoff game since 2017. Is it time to move on from the current regime? Because the current regime is really good and highly respected. But is that enough for a fan base like the Steelers fan base? Is that enough for you as a Utah football fan base? Is that enough for you as a Jazz fan base? Is that enough for Gordy Chiesa? Or is good the enemy of great? We'll talk about it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792 on FM. We welcome in our resident NBA guru, Gordy Chiesa. Gordy, welcome. How are you?
Sean, I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Conversation with Gordy Chiesa brought to you by our friends over at Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. Gordy, the Utah Jazz just a few nights ago, forgot to show up, didn't have the shoes on, didn't know what was going. Like maybe did someone call them all half an hour before the game started and remind them they needed to play? How does it happen? Because it does happen to teams on odd occasions. How does it happen that a game can go so bad that you're setting franchise records for poor performance and poor scoring?
Oh, it happened because you're not ready to play mentally or physically. And the game you're alluding to, that was Saturday night, where the opposing team came along and they were ready to play from the get-go. And in last night's game, it was the opposite, where the Jazz were determined to win. They came out and played a great game the whole time. In the second half, especially, they outscored the Cavaliers 69-50. So it's plus 19 points in the second half. But it's how they did it. And Sean, the biggest factor in the game was that the Jazz rebounding was sensational. That Yusuf Nurkic and Larry Markkinen and Kevin Love and Filipowski, they got 32 rebounds themselves, and the front court of the Cavaliers only got 13. So 32-13. That was Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunting were absolutely outplayed badly by the front court of the Jazz. Good for them.
So what does a bounce back like that after a poor performance on Saturday tell you about this Jazz team?
That they have heart and that they can do it. And let's not forget, the Jazz also had some really tough losses. Like last week, they lost to the Thunder, the best team in basketball by record. They lost by 2 points. So when the Jazz are focused, they have a bunch of people that can play. Last night's game also is that Keontae George outplayed, outfought, outdueled Donovan Mitchell. And Keontae, 32 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. And again, Larry Markkinen's having a career year where he's averaging 27.9 points per game. Last night he gets 28 and 12. So it tells us that the Jazz do have talent, and when they're focused and everybody's ready to roll, that they've been successful. But the biggest factor in the Jazz, as far as just the last, we'll say, 10 days, minus the game against the Charlotte Hornets, has been Yusuf Nurkic. So Nurkic, I call him Sir Mix It Up a lot in the lane.
I love that.
Yeah, Sir Mix It Up a lot. He's a hammering soul. That guy starts hammering people, but he gets off the bus. All right, and so in the last 7 games, Yusuf Nurkic, he's averaging 16.3 points per game and 12 rebounds, and it's all muscle and hustle. And he's been a big factor for the Jazz. Jazz right now, they have 14 wins, 14 and 26. And I know it sounds bizarre saying it, but the play-in tournament, the Grizzlies are the 10th seed right now. They have 17 wins. So the Jazz mathematically are 3 wins away from being in the play-in tournament. So they're right there. They're right there if they choose to. And that's the question: will the Jazz choose to keep this lineup together, or do they make some changes? That's the question.
Well, what does your gut tell you about the answer to that question?
They're going to make sure that they pick this year in the draft, which means that 1 through 8 they're protected, so they'll make some changes, or not play people. That's what my instincts tell me that. From a Jazz point of view, that's better long term for them. You know, for the listeners right now, the Jazz first round pick of the 2026 draft is protected 1 through 8. If the Jazz pick number 9, that pick goes to the, of all people, OKC Thunder.
Yeah, nobody wants to see the Thunder get more young assets. They're already young and talented enough. You don't want to see that happen. Going back to this Cavs game, you mentioned Keontae George outplaying Donovan Mitchell. In the locker room or in practice or at shoot-around, or what is the conversation like when you've got a young player with the capabilities that Keontae George is showing? going up against a guy of Donovan Mitchell's caliber, going up against a team who has that type of guy, do you say, hey, look, we're going to cut you loose this game. We want to see how you can do it. Like, don't let Donovan outplay you. I mean, how do you talk to these guys when they know they're going up against someone that is in some ways their equivalent, even with the same franchise in the past?
Yeah, I'm sure the coaching staff made that point to him, that be in the strike mode, be an attacker, and that's what he did the whole game. He went after the backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and Sam Merrill, and they couldn't stay in front of him, and he lived in the lane. Also, Donovan Mitchell helped him by playing laterally the whole game. Do you realize last night's game that Keontae George didn't commit a foul, Larry Markkinen didn't commit a foul defensively, and most of all, this guy fouls all the time in a good way. Yusuf Nurkic committed only one foul. So that illustrates the point about where the Cavs were passive and the Jazz were absolutely aggressive, taking the ball to the basket and hammering the Cavs on the board. So Keontae George, he was ready to play from the beginning, to be in a strike mode with the ball.
Gordy Chiez is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. LeBron James has a special 23 seasons patch on his jersey now, and I was listening to a conversation this morning talking about, what that means for him, what that means for the game, how you keep him in the game if this is his last year, if next year is his last year. No one's ever done it as long as he has. No one's ever done it, certainly at this level, for as long as he has. I don't know if we need a commemorative patch on his jersey, but it does highlight his contribution to the game over 2+ decades now.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. So the NBA is honoring him as far as almost like an appreciation award as far as having that patch. Now, many of the players really respect LeBron to the ultimate to play that long. Think about it. For 23 years, he's been top of his game. In every scouting report, everyone has tried to slow him down, and no one really has. And so now he's still really a top 25 player in the NBA, and we'll find out if this is his last year or not. But it is a well-deserved award that he minus a long time ago when he said, "I'm taking my talents to Miami," and that was like a big thing when he did that. That was the only, I would say, thing he did out of character. The rest of the time, he's played well. He stayed straight path as far as the NBA, and he's been an absolutely model citizen.
Gordy, you told James you feel like that maybe the Bulls and the Suns are underrated?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right now, let's talk about the Suns. The Suns are really having a great year. That people don't realize the Suns, right now, they're the 6th seed. They're 24-15. And so if the playoffs started today, they'd be in the playoffs. They'd be playing, ironically, the Nuggets, who overachieved also with so many injuries they have this year. So let's go quick with the Suns, is that they have the best record since Christmas Day. They're 9-2 since then. So as we speak right now, they're 9-2. Their rookie head coach, Jordan Ott, has done a good job with their team as far as getting focus. So with that said, Devin Booker's, we all like, tremendous scorer, averaging 25 points a game and 6.4 assists. The record Canadian, if he's on your team, you really like him. So the Phoenix Suns, Dylan Brooks, who we know is a very ultra aggressive. He's averaging 21.2 points per game and 1.2 steals. And speaking of steals, how do you turn around a team is that you steal the ball and you're aggressive. So the Suns are first in the NBA in most steals per game at 10.4. So they steal the ball and get in transition. And then this guy was in the G League for the last 2 years. He was undrafted. He's played in every game this year. Now he starts with them. His name is Colin Gillespie. He was undrafted in 2022 out of Villanova, and he's given them tremendous play. By him playing, starting at point guard now, that allows Devin Booker to play his natural position as far as being a scorer and a passer also, but score first. So Gillespie's averaging 13.2 points per game, 5 assists, 1.4 steals, and shooting from three-point range 40%. And so that's why they've done a tremendous job, the Suns, at 24-15. and it just shows you. Very similar to the Jazz with Keontae George. When the Jazz play him off the ball, he's an absolutely dynamic scorer. And when the Jazz put in the game, Isaiah Collier, he's a willing, pass-happy player. So last night he gets 8 assists in the game. The Jazz win, and Keontae George gets 32 points. It's not one thing; it's everything. Why teams win? The pieces fit on the floor, and they play in harmony. Wonderful.
Gordy, what's your list today?
All right, list today. Hey, Sean, how about the NFL playoffs with the Bears? So with that said, the Bears are having a wonderful season. It's not over yet. With that said, the Jazz play tomorrow night in Chicago. Tonight, the Bulls play tonight in Houston. So the Jazz are going to be in Chicago watching the Bulls play in Houston. And then later on, the Jazz have a back-to-back Wednesday night with the Bulls, and the Jazz play Thursday in Dallas. So it's both teams are going to play shorthanded as far as being no rest in between. But that's part of the NBA. List today, a dozen of the greatest Chicago Bulls players. Remember now, a long time ago, the Bulls started as an expansion team. Their first year was 1966-67. They're the only team in NBA history to qualify for the playoffs in their first season as an expansion team. And let's talk about expansion because, Sean, they might expand the NBA, which they will, with possibly a team from Seattle and a team added from Vegas. When the Bulls entered the NBA, the expansion fee was $1.6 million. Let's fast forward it. Two new teams coming to the NBA, Seattle and Vegas, I'm assuming, the expansion fee will be roughly, Sean, $950 million to $1 billion for the privilege to join the NBA. That's how much the NBA has grown. Here we go. Here's a quick list. The 12 greatest ever Bulls players. Number 12, Bob Boozer. He played back in the 60s and 70s. He averaged 20 points per game. Number 11, Horace Grant. He had those goggles, 3 NBA titles, All-Star, All-NBA defensive team. Number 10, Reggie Theus, 2-time All-Star, 19 points a game average. Number 9, all-time Bulls. His nickname was Stormin' Norman, Norm Van Leer, All-NBA defensive player, tremendous playmaker. Number 8, nickname was the Jet, Chet the Jet Walker, all-star player, sweet shooter, 18 points per game, average for his career. Number 7, nickname was the A-Train, Artis Gilmore. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, 6-time All-Star. Number 5, nickname was Butterbean, Bob Love, 3-time All-Star, tremendous all-around player. Number 5, greatest ever Chicago Bulls player, nickname was The Worm, Dennis Rodman. 3 titles with the Bulls, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year with the Bulls. Number 4, he was my friend and colleague. His nickname is Mr. Bull, Jerry Sloan. 2-time All-Star, 8-time All-NBA defensive team. Number 3, Chicago born and raised, Derrick Rose. 3-time All-Star with the Bulls. In 2011, he was the league MVP. The second greatest Bull player of all time. We all know who he is. He was voted one of the 50 greatest players of all time in the NBA with a tremendous all-around game, Scottie Pippen. 6 titles, incredible two-way player. And the number 1 player of all time, you can make a discussion, he's the greatest player of all time, either 1 or 2, Michael Jordan. 6 titles, 6 MVPs in the finals, and we can make the discussion again. Nobody could stop him as far as one-on-one. Thus, that's my list of the day. The Jazz play the Bulls tomorrow at United Center. But sure, this is important. The Bears play also this weekend.
Gordy, before we let you go, I have to ask you one last question pertaining to what we got into at the start of the show today. Because you brought up the NFL playoffs, the Steelers, to me, are an example of a franchise that right now has to decide between staying with what they know is good or taking a risk to try to be great. Because right now, it looks like maybe good is the enemy of great for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've got this consistency where they can make the playoffs but not advance in the playoffs. And Mike Tomlin, a lot of people think, is the one responsible for that. So when you're talking about, your experience with the Jazz, when we're talking about basketball, football, whatever, Is good the enemy of great in your mind? Can you get complacent with being good or even really good and because of that fail to be great ever?
Yes, oh, absolutely. And you're judged by the playoffs. So with that said, the Steelers now have lost 7 straight playoff games in a row, 7 in a row. So that tells us that, one, the roster's not good enough, and two, they have to make some sort of change at the top because they're too complacent right now. And that, your point is absolutely well taken. And franchises are judged by playoff success. And that, so right now, if I was counseling the Steelers, even though you love their greediness for the last 50 years, they need to change as far as their roster and maybe at the top. So that's the enemy as far as being what? Good, but not great. I agree.
Gordy, always appreciate your time and your insight.
Speaking of great, Sean, the 49ers, those guys,
hey.
that should be they showed their heart and courage the other day on the road. Tremendous win. And also the Patriots showed their talent also recently.
Yeah, Gordy, I don't know if with my Niners, I don't know if it's great, but it is grit for sure. That's a team that has no business winning playoff games with all the injuries they've experienced, including in that game. But we keep going. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Right, Gordy?
Absolutely. Very much. And that's their coach also. And that's the whole resilience as far as their team.
Love it. We'll talk again on Thursday. Thanks, Gordy.
Yes. Peace out, Sean. Stay well.
Gordy Chiesa, brought to you by Aladdin Industries, your Utah Velux dealer. The Hot Lunch is next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, we'll get into some red and blue with Jerem Jordan, who's going to join us at noon. Some interesting stuff on the text line we'll touch on real quick. We were talking about good being the enemy of great. 3869 says we're 30 years from the Jazz being realistically close. 30 years. That's not true. 30 years from now, that means the core of your team hasn't been born yet. We don't know if you're 30 years
They were
away.
also 30 years from now. I thought he was saying 30 years ago was the last time they were realistically good, which is also not true. They were the number one seed like 4 years ago when they collapsed.
Well, maybe I'm interpreting it. Maybe that is what he's saying, that it was 30 years ago that they were good. That would make actually more sense. Derek says, being okay with good is the enemy of great. I have friends that are Steelers fans, and they want Tomlin gone because he's not good enough to get them deep in the playoffs. They actually compare him to he who must not be named. Good, not great. Great at one point, but now not so much. That's also the thing that's so strange with coaching conversations and knowing when to move on and knowing when, a firing might be necessary. I mean, so John Harbaugh is a really great example of fit and culture and familiarity breeding contempt potentially. As soon as John Harbaugh hit the market, everybody contacted him. Everybody, including at least one team, according to reports, that already had a coach. So aside from the Ravens, it would appear that nobody around the NFL or in the NFL thinks that he's done. Okay, so now what do you do? Do you just make the decision that you feel is best for your franchise, even though the masses completely disagree with you? That's what they did. That's what they decided to do. And now he's interviewing with the Atlanta Falcons. The Hot Lunch today is brought to you by our good friends at Big Willie's, 1717 South Main, Utah's #1 sports bar, Utah's #1 pool hall. And I am, as we speak, I am opening the to-go container. I'm unveiling the hot, delicious sandwich. Patrick and Michelle are here with me. And what am I looking at here, Pat?
It's a fajita sandwich.
A fajita sandwich?
Yep.
You're mixing delivery systems here, okay? Fajitas are their own delivery system, but you've turned fajitas into a sandwich.
Yeah, but with fajitas, you got to build it yourself.
Uh-huh.
This way, it's just all on the bun.
It's there
delicious
already.
Toasted bun. You don't have to pick and choose how much meat or how much peppers. It's just all there for you. Perfect portions.
You guys must have been watching on the YouTube feed when I was eating the chicken sandwich yesterday and the fries, because you brought extra fry sauce for me today, knowing how much I love a good dip.
Yeah, our fry sauce, it's crafted in the kitchen. It doesn't come from a bottle, so all our sauces and most of the stuff from the kitchen's all freshly prepared.
We have a raffle going on right now through the month of January. For anyone who hears about Big Willie's on the Sean O'Connell Show, they can go down to Big Willie's. They can say, hey, I heard about it, and you'll put their name into a drawing for a couple of not just Utah Mammoth tickets, not just great club-level Utah Mammoth tickets, but your tickets.
Yeah, there are tickets. You get to hang out with us. We're pretty cool people.
Well, at least
row.
Michelle is.
Yeah, she's worth the ticket.
8th row tickets?
Yeah, they're on the 8th row. So it's they're really great. They're on the attack side, in between the goal and the blue line. So they're really awesome.
Great tickets. Slightly offended I've never been invited to share the tickets. But you, as a listener to the Sean O'Connell Show, you can be invited to share the You just got to go to Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Participate in the raffle by just mentioning the show. #1 pool hall in Utah, #1 sports bar in Utah, incredible food menu with the fajita sandwich. I've never tried this. You guys are batting 1,000 on all the food that you've brought to me so far. I have no doubt that this is also going to be excellent. We got chicken, melted cheese. We got grilled peppers. Onions. That smells amazing, by the way. And then the fries. You can also do tots, onion rings, whatever. Great bar food. And then even if you're trying to be healthy, you've got a bunch of good healthy options on the menu also.
Yeah, we have great salads to choose from. The spinach one I think we've brought to you has a delicious poached egg. mix it all up. It's like a hot salad, but it's really good.
It's so good. It's unbelievable. We had a massive playoff weekend, college football playoff, NFL playoffs last weekend, going all the way until last night. I drove past Big Willie's a couple times. Parking lot was full, and the fun continues. Mammoth game tonight, Jazz in action, and, of course, you've got playoffs continuing in the college football world with the national championship next Monday and the NFL playoffs continuing this weekend.
Yeah, guys, come down and see us. The vibe in that dining room with all the TVs that we have in there was really awesome for between Thursday and Monday. Like you said, the playoff atmosphere for college and NFL was on point. And on top of it, we have wallet-friendly prices on all the drinks and fresh food.
I'm still trying to figure out how you guys make the math on those things, because everywhere else you go, people are trying to gouge you for the food prices. I don't drink, but like everyone who I know who does is like going out to have a few drinks now can be criminal on your wallet, but you make sure it's not.
Yeah, we kind of take the used car sales approach. We want to sell quantity and not just one or two. So we keep everything wallet friendly. Just so you guys can come down and enjoy yourselves and not feel the pain when you look at the bank account the next day.
So if I'm wanting to come down and I'm wanting to watch a playoff football game this weekend, I need to know, how do you handle the volume situation? Like, what game do you put the TV? Can I hear the announcements? Do you make the jukebox be the featured? I need to know.
Well, the way the bar is set up, it's really interesting. We could have sound at the bar, and even though it's 5 feet from the dining room, we could have a different game on in there. So we have 2 games on at all the times, plus the pool room, so we can have 3 sounds on for 3 different games. You can't beat the place.
I bring that up because it's a great gathering place. The service is amazing. The food, the drinks, all of it. The people that work there are fantastic. Patrick and I have known each other for 25 years now. Michelle, his better half, is exactly that, his better half, so even cooler. And everyone on their staff, even the ones who don't know me when I go down there and we're doing remotes, they treat you like family. It's amazing. Big Willie's is the place you want to watch these playoff games this weekend. And if you have a corporate event you need to host, if you have a family party that you can't fit at your house or whatever, give Big Willie's a shot for that too.
Yeah, we have a VIP room upstairs that's really awesome if you want to have a private party. You can book online or come down and see it in person, fill out a raffle ticket, enjoy lunch. Chance to win an NHL game ticket. So
yeah. Speaking of enjoying lunch, I am going to enjoy the hot lunch brought to you by Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. Pat, Michelle, thanks for being here again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Red and Blue is next. Jerem Jordan's going to swing by. How has BYU kept their key players out of the transfer portal? Maybe he knows. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Red and Blue brought to you by our friends at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. They actually have 24-hour service drop-off, if you didn't know that. Great selection of new vehicles, incredible used cars on the lot as well. Beginning of the year prices for all of you out there who've been considering getting into a Ford. Maybe you're looking at one of those big F-150 trucks. Maybe you're like me and you wanted to upgrade the mid-sized SUV to the full-size SUV. Just bite that bullet and go full expedition. They got it all down there at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Our next guest, Jerem Jordan, I don't know what he drives, but he would be treated well at Murdoch Ford Santa Quin. Jerem, welcome. How are you?
I don't doubt I would be. Absolutely. That's how they roll down there.
So how has BYU kept their important players out of the transfer portal? They're conspicuously absent in this Wild West sweepstakes of player acquisition and, of course, roster management. It's been wildly quiet in Provo after a really good season.
It's a very Ute or Trib angle there to question why there's good retention. We see we see it as people want to be here, man. They love Kalani. They love the school. The NIL is competitive. You know, a lot of these guys are taking a discount. Like, we act like BYU's money bags over here. It's no Texas Tech. You know, Smith Snowden's getting offered way more at other places. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always about the money. Although for the men's basketball team, you know, you got to be competitive to get an AJ and a Rob. But like Richie I guarantee was offered more to other schools. Wanted to be at BYU, yet you have to be competitive. I realize that, but it is incredible. I don't know the answer, dude, because the fact that not a single major contributor or starter has left is unbelievable. I think it's crazy. Like, not a single dude until today or yesterday, Max Alford went to Michigan. That's it. One of the backup linebackers. Glasgow didn't go. Faletau Satuala didn't go. Keanu Tanuvasa didn't go. It's wild. And I expect BYU to run it back and hopefully be in the Big 12 title game. And let's see if BYU can't win it this time. It's crazy, man.
Well, I mean, that's as much as a Ute fan doesn't like to hear this if they're listening right now, and as much as the Ute in me doesn't necessarily love to say it, like, if you're doing this now, your answer has to be the correct one. People want to be here. Yes, they're being fairly compensated. Yes, BYU has done a really good job in that effort. But even if you have checked those boxes and, you know, the relationships with coaches are not ideal, or you don't like the team culture, or the communication about how much playing time you're going to get, or what your role on the team is going to be. There's a million things that have sent 3,000-plus players into the transfer portal that are not apparently factors at BYU right now, and I think that Kalani and his staff deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really speaks to who Kalani is and what his staff is, and the fact that, honestly, like, you only lost Gennaro Guilford with Jay. You know, Gary Anderson wanted to stay. Chad wanted to stay. You bring in Damari Warren, which is a really nice ad. The last couple of years at Boise State, you know, Southern Utah head coach before that. Like, he's coaching the corners and passing game defensive coordinator that way. Like, that's great. BYU added some real beef in the portal. Cade Uluwave, by the way, might be in the modern era of this portal the best transfer, like, proven guy BYU's ever gotten. This is all ACC guy, guy that's got NFL potential. He's one of the highest-rated pass-rushing linebackers in Power 4. He's number 2 from PFF. I mean, that was a massive ad. You replaced Jack Kelly with someone who's as good or perhaps better, and that's crazy to say. And so I'm stoked, man. BYU doesn't need to add a ton out of the portal. Incredible continuity and retention. They can be very selective in who they add, and I really like who they've added so far, and they're not done.
So we started the show today with a conversation about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the decision around Mike Tomlin and whether or not good is the enemy of great at some point. And the breaking news is that he's leaving the Steelers after 19 seasons. And since 2017, you probably get this sense that, well, his goodness, his very, very goodness, has become somehow an obstacle to them achieving more, because why haven't they won a playoff game in that long? And like you can certainly apply this to the transition of power at the University of Utah football program. And you can always apply it to the Utah Jazz in several different eras. I'm curious if BYU fans, if you as a BYU insider, someone who works very closely with this school and this team, looked at anything that they had on the roster this year and said, oh, that is maybe not the roster, just anything around the team, said that good is the enemy of great. That good right there might be the thing that keeps us from getting over the hump against Texas Tech, because it's also very possible, and I probably lean more this direction, where it's just Texas Tech is that good, and Texas Tech was the problem, not anything that was going on internally.
Yeah, I do think Texas. I tip the cap completely. Self-awareness is something that I try to be good at, because I hate when people are fake or don't acknowledge the reality of a situation. Texas Tech was way better than BYU. That played out. They were +7 in margin. BYU didn't get a takeaway. That wasn't how BYU won games all year. And, Bear's ankle didn't help, and LJ's shoulder didn't, blah, blah, blah. Texas Tech was awesome. BYU has to recruit to be their best selves, but also, how are you going to beat Texas Tech? For BYU men's basketball, they brought Kennard Davis in and others because they said, how do we beat Houston? Houston's the best team in the league. How do we beat Houston? They specifically got a few guys that they felt would help them match up better. And now Houston's the third or fourth best team in the league, which is crazy. Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, BYU, Texas Tech, there's your top five. It's crazy. Longer, more athletic. For BYU football, they have a good O-line. They have a good run game. What they are missing is a little more explosives down the field in the pass game, I think. And then defensively, you just got to be able to stop the run a little better and get some takeaways. So you target those things. Yet you're BYU. It's unique. The thing so back to your question of what's just good. I don't know, because I think BYU continues to build, and they're very good, and they're on the verge of great. BYU was almost great this year. If they beat Texas Tech in one of those two games, they're in the playoff. And then who knows what happens? Maybe you're Miami and you get hot, and you never know. It's crazy. I don't know that BYU has something that's holding them back. I think it's all like green lights and up arrows right now. The O-line has been reinforced. Can they be better on the edge in terms of rushing the quarterback? Yes. Do I think they have one of the best linebacker trios in America? Yes. Coming back, you bring back Evan Johnson and Trey Alexander. Faletau Satawala is a future NFL guy. You have Raider Demoni back. I think defensively, the system and the people that have run out for the most part are there. It's really, can you do it again? And can you be a little more explosive in the pass game? And Bear's going to be a year older. I have no reason to think BYU won't be at least 10-2 in the regular season, given who they have come back. Now, injuries play a factor, situations play a factor, weather and moments, and you got to be clutch and lucky and healthy and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But, BYU feels super confident they can, as they've said on many social media posts, run it back.
Jerem Jordan is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for a little red and blue, focusing on the Cougs down south for this segment. There's plenty of time left to answer this question, I suppose, and there's 3 days left in the transfer portal. Well, they could, I guess, address it. But Chase Roberts, his year wasn't as spectacular as a lot of us expected his year to be, but he's still a really, really tough guy to replace. Is there somebody on this roster already that you're like, well, that's the next body at that position?
In terms of what he is as a 6'4", 210 guy that can go up and grab the ball, they don't have that guy per se, although they like, the Oregon transfer, Kyler Casper at 6'6", 212. Pretty unproven, only had 7 catches in 4 years there. But they feel like maybe he can come in and he's not going to replace Chase for sure. I think you just ask Parker to do a little more, and then you ask JoJo Phillips to do a little more. Can Cody Hagan get more involved in the pass game? Can Walker Lyons as a tight end kind of replace Carson Ryan there? Frankly, if LJ and this O-line can run at the same sort of clip, and Bear can even be even better in that space, and you can have a tight end, then you can get open. Because BYU's bread and butter and the explosiveness of the pass game is built on play action. Very kind of what you've seen from Sean McVay and the LA Rams, and how do they get down the field? They don't just straight drop back a ton. You're trying to get some window dressing, and BYU successfully did that for the most part. I think Parker Kingston can take the next step and kind of be first-team all-conference kind of guy, and we saw it a bunch of times this year. I think he's ready for the next step.
What was it like watching Keelan Marion go off for Miami in that semifinal game?
Wasn't as painful as I thought because I'm happy for him. Like, knowing that he was going to get, I think, about double in NIL is like easier pill to swallow. Like, the dudes could win a natty. I mean, super happy for him. What a playmaker. Darius Lassiter is a fellow receiver from last year's team, 24, that is. He was actually at the game, probably from a ticket from Keelan hanging out, which is great. Keelan's a good dude. Super happy for him. A kid that was at UConn, to BYU, to Miami, and playing for natty. So less sort of jealousy and anger and more like, I'm happy for him. That's great. Good for you, man.
Part of the reason I asked that question is because I think it's something we have to, as football fans in this era of college sports especially, you have to be prepared to, root for guys after they move on. If they did something good for your franchise, for your team, I don't think there's anything wrong with wishing them well at the next spot. I know that's challenging right now, especially for a lot of Utah fans. It's very, very raw. But it's something that even if there's not a coaching transition and a bunch of coaches have to leave and the transfer portal kills you, whatever. It's just something that I don't know. When I was a fan of Jerry Rice growing up as a San Francisco 49er, right? And it's not like I hated Jerry Rice when he became a Raider. I didn't want him to be as good.
Seahawks. Don't leave that one out.
Well, I'm gonna leave that one out. But or for when he tried out for the Broncos and got cut. I mean, look, it was an ignominious end to a glorious career. But it's something that we should already be used to, but we're not. And now that free agency is what it is in college sports, it's just something that I think I need to be better at. I think that there's got to be tools to be better at it. When you see a Keelan Marion, I was watching that game, I'm just like, oh, man, like that might hurt if you're a BYU fan. And then I was like, but why? Because this is a dude that, he could have done some nice things for your team. I don't think he was the difference between you beating Texas Tech or not. And now this is somebody who, like you said, gets to compete for a national championship and gets to be prominently featured on that team and like you said, paid more.
Is the relationship with the player transactional or transformational? What is it? Do you both benefit, or is it just a dude that you pay to catch some passes? That's the question. And it was hopefully transformational for him and the BYU fans. I think they really liked Keelan. He has a big personality. He's great. And frankly, Kalani Sitake, he's very expert in not burning a bridge and maintaining a loving, sincere, meaningful relationship with kids that BYU recruited out of high school, doesn't work at their school, and then they come to BYU. That worked super successfully with Puka Nacua, goes to Washington, and Kingsley Suamatia goes to Oregon, and so on and so forth. There's a bunch of these situations. Like, you do it not because you need something from them, although you do. You do it because you actually care about the kid. And I think that that's the case with Kalani Sitake and his staff. So
the Cougs came up to the Huntsman Center, and
I heard that
it was a half BYU crowd, or a 45% BYU crowd, and we were all treated to a really fun, really great game where Utah rose to the occasion and competed, and ultimately came out on the wrong end of it against a very, very talented BYU team. Did BYU learn anything about themselves in that game? It feels to me like the Runnin' Utes did, certainly. Did BYU?
That's a good question. And Utah absolutely was up for that game and played great. Like, I was really impressed by Terrence Brown and Don McHenry. That was great. That was exactly what we want from BYU and Utah. Like a good game. Both teams are into it. Like, that was fantastic. Obviously, I like it more because BYU won, but I think Utah, got a lot of benefit out of that situation because they're going to play other teams like BYU here. They already played Arizona, but there's going to be the Iowa States and the Houston, so on and so forth. Yeah, I think AJ, who's still 18, not 19 for like a couple weeks, I think he felt the rivalry. He felt what it's going to feel like when you play some of these tougher road games against better teams in similar hostile environments. I think that was good. It was good that Utah gave him a different look. No one had doubled him like that and he made super quick decisions and got out of most of them. But then at the end, Utah basically said, like, okay, Rob Wright, you've got to be the one to beat us. And Rob was up to the task, scoring 8 of BYU's final 18 points. And Richie Saunders said, hey, I got an offensive rebound here because I want to win here because I never have. And I thought that was Richie's best game as a Cougar. I really did. Kaba Kate obviously had some emotion and was good in that one. And Kevin Young had a funny story out of the game where he said Kaba got his 3rd foul, and Kevin was bringing him over to the bench to sub out, and Kaba was super quiet, and he was yelling at Kevin. He had never heard him scream louder, don't take me out of this game. So it was very emotional and important, I think, for Game 3 of 18 in the Big 12, absolutely.
So this this fan base at Utah, I think everyone was like, oh, wow, look, this is what it should look like when your basketball arena is full. And let's not pretend it wasn't because it's BYU, right? But, like, okay, cool. It can be loud in here. The players loved it. The coaches loved it. And I think the fan base to some extent was just like, we ought to do a little bit more of this because there's certainly an energy. And it's not a problem that BYU basketball has right now. What kind of the next time these two teams meet up, it will be in Provo. So what kind of a home court advantage do you expect the BYU Cougars to experience in that matchup and probably equally importantly, maybe more importantly, through the rest of Big 12 play?
Oh, in 11 days when they play again, which is crazy, at the end of next week. I think it's going to be wild. Yeah, I think BYU fans have had unbelievably great crowds so far, and BYU's not played anybody at home. I think it's going to be nuts. I think we're going to feel and see things we haven't seen since 2011 with Jimmer Fredette when BYU played San Diego State. Sean, BYU has 3 potential top 12, top 10 matchups in the Marriott Center. I think they've had one all time. It's crazy what could happen this year, and it's going to be epic. And these are games that really influence an opportunity to be a top 3 seed for BYU, and you've got to win several of those, probably 2 of the 3. You know, you're going to go on the road and play Texas Tech, and you're going to play, you know, some really Houston. You're going to play some tough games. You got to win some of these home games against the big-time teams, and it's been very favorable. Marriott Center's been incredible. It's a who's who. There's all kinds of people that want to come see this team and AJ, and it's a hard ticket to get. And that's why a lot of BYU fans went up to the Huntsman Center because they want to see the team play wherever they are. They're must-see TV and must-see be there in person and everything, and the energy of the rivalry is great. It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be fun. And, oh, by the way, that's on Fox National with my boy Aaron Goldsmith, who calls the games for the Mariners. So super excited about the showcase that is he texted me a couple weeks. I'm calling the Holy War. I was like, you're going to have fun, man. His first time in Provo is a BYU Utah game.
That's pretty cool. I hate to give credit, but I will do it where it's due. AJ DeBonsa somehow pulled off like the most subtle dig where he was talking about the atmosphere at the Huntsman Center, and he was like, that was crazy. That was so loud. That was as wild as I've seen. Well, some of my high school games too. And it's just like, oh no, you can't. He started with a compliment and then backhand. Well, it's kind of like some of my high school games. That was rough, but good on him because that's how he should treat it.
Well, and frankly, I guess we have a unique perspective in this because in the WCC, BYU is playing in a bunch of small gyms. BYU fan love the gym measure, and there's a situation there where you'd play at St. Mary's in a small gym, but it's crazy. I went up to the kennel for a game. It was crazy. It's like in the Smith Fieldhouse for volleyball, frankly, that I've called for years. It's not about having like a 20,000 seat stadium per se. It's about like what is the environment when you're in there in that game, and it's been incredible. Like the Huntsman Center was rocking Saturday. That was fun for everybody. It was a great game. Like it's fun when the Marriott Center, yes, is almost 19,000 and it's packed every game and it's crazy. But like, yeah, if AJ had some small high school gym and people were on top of you and it was heated, I think he was referring to how sort of intense it was as opposed to sort of the volume or the amount of people there. But yeah,
that's probably fair.
Yeah, but and he's not the guy to like talk trash per se, although he kind of does. But he's pretty respectful, and I was happy he kind of said, yeah, there was some real vitriol there.
Who's going to win the national championship in college football?
it's hard not to think Indiana, and especially with Fernando Mendoza being a Miami guy, the motivation's there. Miami's at home. They play tough, physical football. They have all the skill positions necessary to do this. Can they slow down Indiana? Indiana is an unbelievable story, not just because they're Indiana, because they don't have a bunch of 5 stars. They have a bunch of, we want to prove ourselves guys. And frankly, I look at that model and I go, can BYU turn into Indiana? Can they do that? They have more. BYU has 24 stars on the roster this year, Sean. They've never had that many. This has got to be the most talented paper team ever. You don't play on paper, I know, but like you want those kind of guys. What if Indiana can do it? Why can't BYU or Utah do it?
Man,
you know what I mean?
That's
So
that's
it gives you
exactly
hope.
what I took away. And it's probably naive in some aspects, but
Sure.
like if that's exactly right. We're so used to it being it's Alabama this year, it's Georgia next year, it's Ohio State
Not
the
anymore,
next year,
baby.
and now it's like, wait, it's Indiana, and Miami hasn't been great for 20-something years, and here they are again, And Ole Miss was in a semifinal, so
Why not BYU or Utah? Why not?
why not? Why not? Are we putting a Cougar tail bet on Niners Seahawks or something?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Let's do it. Yeah.
go Niners.
Do you want some points bet or just straight up?
No, we'll just go straight up.
Okay.
Because I don't like if they lose but cover it, I'm not going to feel good anyway. Even as I'm even as I'm eating the delicious maple frosting of a Cougar tail, it's not going to make me feel better if the Niners are out of the playoffs. If they win,
I'm gonna.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm wearing a Cougar tail sweatshirt right now.
Wait, Cougar tails.
I'm gonna send you.
They have their own merch. Cougar tails have their own merch.
Dude. They have merch,
Wait,
bro.
I saw something. I don't know where I was yesterday. There was something on a TV. Might have been my own house, to my own embarrassment. Did the creamery move?
Oh, yeah. They have a new. It's right behind the old location. You can't miss it. It's right there. It's much bigger, and it's like a mini grocery store kind of thing. But yeah,
Okay.
it's way nicer. Way nicer.
Yeah, they had the Cougar Paws they were launching, and they had.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah, they got all kinds of
we
stuff,
moved
man.
the creamery. I mean, look, we're not going to celebrate a lot of BYU things on the home of the Utes here, but I'm on board with Cougar Tails and Graham Canyon from
Yep,
the creamery.
you know.
Let's go.
As a
All right.
BYU grad, you know.
Let's give these people some credit. Bring back the giant bratwurst inside of a Cougar tail bun. All right, then
Bro,
I'll say nice things
so
about you.
good. Okay, I'm sending the picture of my sweatshirt here. It's obviously reversed on the selfie here, but you'll get the point.
All
It's
right.
like in the Costco style of like the hot dog, like it says 750 and kind of, yeah. It's I wore it today on BYU Sports Nation. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's great.
Amazing. I always appreciate your time, Jerem. Are you going to be at Mammoth tonight?
Not tonight, no.
Okay.
But I will be. Let's see. When's the next? Oh, I'll be there Thursday. for
Thursday?
the Dallas Stars game.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll see you there soon.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
your
John.
time.
You're the best.
Thanks. That's Jerem Jordan for Red and Blue, brought to you by Murdoch Ford Santa Quinn. He is a Seahawks fan and a Cougars fan. That's like, it's pretty remarkable. Also, this is an advertisement on the T-shirt: a 16-inch Cougar tail, deep fried donut, and a 20-ounce soda. This is something we have to figure out in Utah. The fact that at like Swig and places like that, I understand why you want your giant sodas. I understand why you want your sugar cookies and your donuts. I don't understand why you want to put those two things together.
You want them together?
That is serial killer behavior. That is insane. What are we doing, people? Like a Cougar tail with milk? Great. You want one of those big old fat crumble cookies or any of the cookie war type locations? Great. But don't wash it down with Mountain Dew. That makes you a weirdo. Get you some milk. Whole milk, skim milk, even chocolate milk, which is a little risky. But soda? What are we doing? All right. The Daily Dump is next, including massive news out of Pittsburgh. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Look for the truck with the duck. They can now take care of your HVAC needs in addition to your plumbing and your drain cleaning. Tell them OC sent you. Time for the Daily Dump. Several different news stories we've got to get to, including breaking news. It broke during our conversation with Jerem Jordan, or slightly before. We touched on it briefly, but Mike Tomlin, after 19 seasons in Pittsburgh, never did he have a losing season as the head coach of the Steelers. He's out, and he is stepping down. This, we had someone on the text line say that, he has a group of friends that compare the Tomlin situation to the situation with he who shall not be named, and this is a continuation of that. This is Mike Tomlin who's stepping down, and there's always going to be conversation in Pittsburgh about whether or not this was just like, hey, how about you go out on your own terms here, coach, but we're done here. And there are a lot of Utah fans who, of course, feel like that was the case with the previous head coach. So 19 years. And now Pittsburgh's got to go in a different direction. By the way, this will be the fourth coach that they've hired.
It's 1969. I guess that's when the franchise was founded, right?
Wait,
maybe a little bit before
what?
that.
This is it's Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin.
That's it. And we talked about this last week as one of the reasons why possibly the situation with Utah football changing head coaches and the former guy taking another job somewhere else and rating the staff and some of the players and all that, and why that might be a little bit part of the reason why it's been taken so hard by the Utah football fan base is that we are so used to head coach continuity here. That is still what we're used to is still nothing compared to that, what we just talked about with Pittsburgh, because we've still had double, since the Jazz moved to Utah, for example, they still have had double the amount of head coaches as the Steelers about.
So Chuck Noll coached from 1969 to 1991, and then Bill Cowher from 92 to 06, and then Mike Tomlin since then. The franchise was established in 1933 and actually had a bunch of coaches before that, including this. I wish I lived during this time in the sports world. In the 1930s and 40s, and then again in the 1950s, there was a guy named Walt Kiesling. He was the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the head coach for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Joe Bach, his immediate predecessor, head coach for the Pittsburgh Pirates and for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can you imagine if, like today, John Harbaugh announced, hey, I am the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I will also be coaching the Braves.
By the way, you bring up John Harbaugh. What if he makes the move to his rival?
Well, he could go to Cleveland also.
Well, yeah, that would also be a rival.
3 AFC North coaching openings right now.
But him going to Cleveland, people have talked about, oh man, that would be quite the thing. What if he gets to stick it to his former team? He wouldn't be sticking it to the Ravens with Cleveland quite like he'd be able to from Pittsburgh. And if you're Pittsburgh, I know the rivalry. I know the Rooneys probably share the hate for the Ravens and the purple and black, just like the fan base. And Bill Cowher was on with Dan Patrick today. Incredible interview. He mentioned, I like Brian Billick. That's who the Ravens head coach when he was when he was the coach of the Steelers. I did not like him when we played them. On the day that we played them, I didn't shake his hand, like all that stuff. So I'm sure the Rooneys share some of that, but if you're the Rooneys, I think you should seriously consider bringing John Harbaugh in. Why not? It would be plug and play as far as this philosophy, and maybe you need something different, right? But I think that he'd be able to continue the Steelers standard and bring them back to the success you want them. They demand there in Pittsburgh. I think he could.
Guys, we have breaking news.
Oh.
Devin Dampier is coming back to the University of Utah.
Let's go.
This is incredible. He put it out on his own social media, Devin Dampier, with with a Wolf of Wall Street AI edit. He's got the Leonardo DiCaprio character in a Spider-Man mask. That Wolf of Wall Street scene where it looks like he's going, but then he's like, I'm not leaving. Devin Dampier's back for the 2026 season. As we expected, and this has been really interesting. We'll do our best. We'll get Devin on as soon as we possibly can. I'm texting him right now to see when he wants to come on. But I'm really curious once we get into the roller coaster, the waves of, hey, are you going? Hey, are you staying? I want to know who was talking to him. I want to know if Michigan was a possibility. It sounded like at some point Arizona State was making a pretty strong overture. But he's back at the University of Utah. And I was told to expect that this would be the case. So now you've got one of the most unique situations in all of college football with two guys that on some level are proven to be at least starting caliber quarterbacks. There's not a person who watched any of Bird Ficklen's lone start or even of his spot duties who doesn't think that Bird Ficklen's capable of being the number one guy on a football team at the Power 4 level. I'm talking fans, coaches, opposing players. Everybody looks at that guy and says, he can play. So you've got him and Devin Dampier who've decided they're both coming back. They're going to embrace this competition. They're going to embrace the dual quarterback situation. They're going to embrace the roles that they had already and potentially grow on them. If you're Kevin McGivern, by the way, you are now looking at a situation where it's like, first of all, a lot of pressure, but what a luxury. There are so many coordinators in the country, including guys at Power 4 schools, other Big 12 schools, that are looking at it and just, oh my gosh, I hope we can keep this starting quarterback healthy. If not, we are screwed. Oh my gosh, I hope I can get the most out of this guy. Now Kevin McGivern is looking at it and going like, we got them both. We got them both. Unbelievable for the University of Utah. Unbelievable style with which Devin Dampier announces the return. And run it back at the quarterback position ×2. Batman and Robin, let's do it.
Spider-Man and – oh, wait, never mind.
Spider-Man and Spider –
one of the Avengers.
Spider-Man. There's like a Spidey and His Amazing Friends cartoon.
Right. Yeah, he's one of the other Spider-Men from the – or women from the multiverse, yeah.
So, like, how about it's Spider-Man and Miles Morales, the other Spider-Man.
Yeah.
All right? Peter Parker, Miles Morales. I'll let them decide who gets to be who. All right? I'm not going to touch that one.
Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland.
So, this is fascinating. And in a way that, in a fascinating luxury for Utah to have with two quarterbacks. Good for the Utes. Good for Morgan Scalley. Good for Kevin McGivern. Good for all the teammates that helped support this decision, convince these guys, make it possible. If you're a Utah fan, 12 hours ago, you're dang near crying. I guess more like 18 hours ago. Because you got the announcement that Celesi Moa is in the transfer portal. And he's going to go to Michigan, guys. Probably. Tennessee's going to make another run at him. A bunch of other schools who thought they had this or thought they had that, they're going to make a run at him. But Celesi Moa is going to end up at Michigan, right? And there was a vocal and angry group of fans in the Utah sphere that had to let it be known that they can't stand everything about this situation. This is one of those salves that you put on the wound that makes you feel a little bit better, I think. That you have a quarterback who was a great leader, a great member of the community, and a great player, especially when healthy, coming off of, by the way, his best performance in a Utah uniform. And now surgically repaired some of the injuries that he dealt with this season. So Devin Dampier is back at the University of Utah for the 2026 season. Let's go! That's fun.
You gotta think that this is a good sign too, knowing that Bird just barely announced for a second time that he's not going anywhere.
No, man. I mean,
I feel like it's a good sign about Devin Dampier's competitiveness too. That we heard it so many times in the old era, the previous era of Utah football, from he who shall not be named. Iron sharpens iron, right? And Devin Dampier, and I expect Morgan Scalley to keep that mantra up. Maybe he words it a little bit differently, but that the message still is the same. We are not going to back down from any challenge, and that includes internal challenges from players behind us. We are going to embrace that as an opportunity to get stronger and get better as a team and get better individually. And Devin Dampier, we know he and Bird have a great relationship. That helps too. But also, there's a level of this where it's like, for a human level of this where it's like, I don't know if I want the pressure. A lot of people are like, I don't know if I want the pressure of, hey, that guy's always right behind me, ready to take my job. Devin Dampier says, no, iron sharpens iron. I want that challenge. I'm going to do everything I can to keep this job, even though I know that everyone knows I got a guy behind me that's ready to take it. I think that's a great sign.
It's fantastic. Only good things come out of this announcement. And if you're an offensive player on this team, if you're Kevin McGiven, this is now an absolute luxury. This is incredible. This is fun. This is how innovative are you as a play caller? We saw both of those guys on the field together several times, one being used as a decoy. Don't use him as a decoy this time. Get them both involved in the play. Let's see what Utah's offense can be with this very unique. It's not like singular. It's not like we've never seen it before, but it is far from common in college football that you have this luxury. Devin Dampier announces he's running it back with the Utes. I guess hopefully we'll have to try and get him on for next year too, dishing with Dev. You know what we need to do? We need to try and make it a weekly with Dev and Bird at the same time.
Dishing Bird with Dev. No, that's not good.
We'll figure out what they want to call it.
No, but Devin and Bird, we did have a quarterback segment, especially if we get indications that Kevin McGiven wants to try to use them the way that Jason Beck used them, where they're on the field at the same time, like you just mentioned. Yeah, let's do it.
877-353-0700. How you feeling now that Devin Dampier has announced he's coming back? We'll take a quick one here, and we'll talk about the roller coaster of emotions, because last night was ugly for Utah fans with the Celeste Moa announcement. We have to get into that a little bit too. But we'll end at least on a positive note, because Dev is back. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. What would you commit to if you were an elite college football player right now? 877-353-0700. What would be the thing that had you committed? Be honest with yourself. Answer anonymously, whatever. 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports. What would you be committing to? Because we've asked Jeff Schwartz, who's going to join us in about 5 minutes, his answer to this question. And he was like, no, I'm mostly committed to the program at Oregon. Kind of the whole thing. Great facilities, great coaches, cool uniforms, good teammates, et cetera, et cetera. What would you commit to? Devin Dampier just announced he's coming back to the University of Utah. Devin Dampier is committed to the program right now. How do I know that? Well, because Devin Dampier could have gone somewhere else. He's committed to the program. Now, he's probably committed to the program, and to be honest and to be fair, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this because it's the world we live in, he's committed to the paycheck that this program is going to provide him. He's committed to the teammates that he has developed great chemistry with, including Bird Ficklin, who is his number one competition, which is crazy. If he was only committed to his position coach, which a lot of guys go to a school to play for a coach, right? If he was only there to play for a certain coach, he might have gone to Michigan. Or he might have gone back somewhere that had a closer tie to somebody who, he knew from New Mexico or whatever. To my knowledge, I don't think Devin knows much about Kevin McGivern. I could be wrong. We'll talk to Dev as soon as we can. I don't know.
Is there a chance, because that Utah State coaching staff that McGivern was just on was a similar staff to what he played for in New Mexico, that he knows something about him? I think there could be a chance, but
he better know something about him. If Kevin McGivern and Utah's staff didn't make it known or didn't make it clear to Devin what he could expect in this offense, then that would have been a failure on their part. He definitely knows something, but McGivern was at San Jose State when Dev was at New Mexico.
Right.
So, indirect relationship at best, right? So,
yeah.
So there are some guys who are committed to play for coaches and do commit to go play for coaches. And I think this is a problem that people have with the announcement that Celeste Moa made that he was jumping into the transfer portal. And people got mad at me because I was bothered by how some people were reacting. Let me clarify, because I have a radio show and I'm allowed to do that on my own radio show. If you were cursing at a young guy, a kid, an 18-year-old directly because he decided to go to Michigan, there's something wrong with you. I'm sorry. Like, if you're part of that fringe lunatic fan base that can't accept the process that these guys go through, can't accept the fact that you might make the same decision if you were offered more money, or if – remember when we had that heartwarming story about why he flipped to Utah in the first place?
Yeah.
When Lewis Powell called the house on commitment day and said, let me talk to my nephew. And we were like, isn't that so great that he decided to go with like the family tie and the guy that he's known since he was literally a baby? Isn't that so cool? But then when that guy is no longer at the University of Utah, we demand that the loyalty to that person is gone. Not we. Some people. And to be clear, I think it is a loud but small minority of Utah fans. I was addressing you when I said get a grip on Twitter. I wasn't addressing the fan base that's bothered by how the former head coach has gone about things. I was not addressing those of you who are just bummed about it or a little disappointed. I'm addressing the psychos that attack the Moa family directly because you don't like the decisions that they are making. Say they're people of no integrity or low integrity. Like, loyalty comes in a lot of different forms. If you're Ben Moa, Celeste Moa, and you have an option to flip your commitment again, which, by the way, why do you think that a kid who already flipped to you is not going to have risks flipping somewhere else? John Henry Daly was a product of the transfer portal for you, and now the transfer portal took him away from you again. Like, that's just how this is going to work. These cycles are going to work. Like, Celesi was committed to, in some ways, Lewis Powell almost directly. Even though it's not going to be his position coach, even if he goes on defense, Lewis is not going to be his position coach, right? But he was committed to that on some level. And yes, we talked to his dad, and his dad said, yeah, I always wanted one of my kids to be a legacy kid, and he decided that that's what he wanted to do. And then the circumstance changed drastically, which, by the way, is something that was fully beyond Celesi Moa's control. And Ben doesn't need me to defend his family, and Celesi doesn't need me to defend him. But I think that we are getting to a situation now where people are like, well, these kids make money, so I can treat them like adults. Okay. On some level, sure. This kid, one guy, he makes 10 times my salary. I can curse at him if I want to. Well, no, it still makes you a turd if you're cursing at an 18-year-old. Like, think of that in any other context of your life. Like, you pull up to a stop sign, and the 18-year-old is playing his music too loud, and you roll down your window, and you decide to be the crazy 40-something-year-old guy who's screaming your head off at a high school kid. Like, you're still a little bit weird for that. And just because he was driving a nice car doesn't really change that. Will Celesi Moa regret his decision to go to Michigan? Honestly, probably not. Maybe. Maybe he will. And guess what? It's going to be real hard. If you want Celesi Moa back, it's going to be real hard to scrub the internet of the tiny Utah fan base reaction that was telling him and his family to bleep off. That's crazy behavior. Because a guy wants to pursue his dream wearing a different shirt than the one you like? That's wild, man. And what if it was your kid, okay? I'm fine if you have a problem with the former coach taking a bunch of the staff. I don't think you're being realistic, but I'm fine if that's where your gripe is. I'm not going to try to convince you to feel a different sort of way. Even though you would do the exact same thing if you were in his shoes, by the way. But, like, let's say your kid is this kid, and right? Utah's like, hey, we'll give you $1 million. We really want you. Second best recruit in the history of our program. Your legacy. We love you. I played with your dad. I want you to play for me. What all the messaging that Celesi Moa was getting from Utah. And then the guy you call uncle, who's now wearing a different shirt, says, hey, I know you wanted to follow your dad and do the same logo and the legacy thing. We're going to give you $1.5 million, or we're going to give you $2 million. Now, Celesi Moa probably believes he's going to be the next Puka Nacua in the NFL. He probably believes that when he's 18 years old, because that's how your brain works when you're 18. But also, Celesi Moa has two older brothers who were highly recruited players, not quite as highly recruited as him, but he has two older brothers who are currently in college football right now, and it's not working out as smoothly as anyone in the Moa family would have hoped. So you think that Celesi might see there's a cautionary tale in front of him? Take what you can get while you can get it. You never know what the future holds. My brothers, who I looked up to as heroes, are not having the experience that they thought they would have. I mean, there's a lot to this. And our job as fans is to support Morgan Scalley and support what he wants to do. It is not to say bleep you to everything else, especially when we're talking about a kid who should still be in high school. If you're going to go to your local high school and roll down the window and start yelling bleep yous to any kid or their family for anything, you are the problem, okay? That's a you thing. For any weird decision that kid makes, aside from driving drunk, doesn't deserve that kind of a reaction from a fan base. So, if you felt I was attacking you when I said, hey, get a grip, it's because you are unhinged. If you read my tweet and you understood, like, oh, he's talking about the crazy people that are yelling at kids, that are going on Twitter, taking the time, writing out the tweet, hitting send to like, you have no integrity, you're pathetic, you're a loser, F you, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm talking to you. That's weird behavior. And we're all guilty of weird behavior online. So you can go ahead and you can leave it up. You can delete the tweet, whatever. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't help Utah. It doesn't help the players on your roster. It doesn't help attracting future talents like Celesi. When that's your reaction, anytime something doesn't go your way, you become petulant and you start kicking your feet and screaming. That's not the way to react to these things. Can you be disappointed? Of course. Can you hate the system and the fact that now you can commit to somewhere and you can sign somewhere and then you can be in the transfer portal a week later? Absolutely. Can you hate that there's pretty obvious tampering going on every level of college football? Yes, you can. Where I need to draw the line, where we all should draw the line, and I'm not going to back off on this just because it makes you feel sad, is like attacking kids and families because you don't like their decisions, even if you feel like it's disloyal, even if you feel like it's dishonest, even if you feel like it's, well, I wouldn't do that. Are you sure? Are you sure if you work at like a mom and pop delivery shop and the big boys came and offered you double the salary that you wouldn't take it? Are you sure if your boss that you love working for got a job at a new place and said, hey, I'd like to hire you for me, you'd be like, nope. I'm staying here. Why? Because I'm loyal to this shirt. You know, you actually haven't worn the shirt in any meaningful competition yet. You actually haven't you actually haven't caught a pass or made a tackle for this university yet. The expectation that a young kid, even one who's paid, should be loyal to something just because you are is not a realistic expectation. And you can hate the system as much as you want, but hating a young man for making a decision you don't like is more of a you problem than it is a him problem. I'm off my soapbox now. Wait, let me jump back on for a second. I wish Celesi Moa was coming to the University of Utah and staying at the University of Utah. In a perfect world, that's where I would want to see him be. I'd love to see his dad at all the games. I'd love to see him become Utah's first 1,000-yard receiver in many years. Guess what? That might still happen because he's going to go play for Jason Beck and for Kyle Whittingham, and he's going to be like, these guys haven't ever had a 1,000-yard receiver. That's what I want to be. And he might bounce back. He might say, let me go back to Utah. I'm the baby of the family. I miss my mom. Let me go back to Utah. I mean, it's as strong a possibility as anything else. He might be 4 years at Michigan. You know what's way more likely? That he's at 2 other schools before his career is over. That's the world we live in now. And you don't have to like that. In fact, you can hate it. But you can't hate him. And you can't hate his dad and you can't hate his mom. It's just, this is the world you live in. Relax. It's a game. Don't attack people online. And then when I criticize and you feel targeted by it, don't tweet F you at me because I promise you wouldn't say that to me in real life. Let's just be civil. I'm done. Off the soapbox. Jeff Schwartz next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. Welcome in Jeff Schwartz, our football expert at every level. Lots to talk about. A lot of news in the college and pro football worlds. And Jeff Schwartz is a former Oregon Duck, so I will not tread lightly because he can deal with things the way the rest of us do. Jeff Schwartz, how are you?
You said no one tells you F you your face. I feel like I would do that to you. I mean, little fisticuffs afterwards.
No.
Afterwards.
I didn't say no one does. There's plenty of people, one in particular, who likes to do it all the time. But, there's – I feel like most of the people on Twitter that are big mad about, a recruiting decision, it just, said that lack of restraint because there's no consequence to being a lunatic online. And I'm guilty of it too.
It is. I'll tell you what. This week we'll get to Oregon in a second. I'll answer the noise here. But Oregon has essentially had their entire backup defense go in the portal in the last a couple guys went before the Indiana game, and then literally the two backup defensive tackles, our third defensive end, everyone left. Okay, and it's one of those things where I personally don't believe that a transfer solves all your problems. Basically, your problem being that you're not starting in Oregon, right? And I get it. You're in year 3. You want to start somewhere else. I get it, Sean. I totally do. But there's no point in even sharing that take on the internet because I'm just going to get crapped on for it.
Sure.
It's just no. It's frustrating even for me. The last couple of days as a college football fan, as a fan of Oregon, and also an advocate for the players. I think the players should be allowed to transfer one time. I mean, it's crazy when you see a guy going to third, fourth, fifth team, but it is what the sport is now, and not wanting to say something about it because I wish these guys luck when they leave, but also I'm like, dude, you're the third D tackle on a team that is probably Oregon's likely to be the favorite to win the championship if Moore comes back. You're going to leave to go be the starting D tackle at Cal? Okay. I mean, I don't know if I would do that, right? But if you say those things on the internet, man, people get so angry with you.
Right. And there's no nuance to the tone and the the details behind tweets because you have limited characters and whatnot. But it is a complicated way to get your point across. But at the end of the day, I just don't think, even though Celesi Moa is a great talent, we don't know if he's going to be a great college football player yet. He's a great talent, and he's a big loss because his dad's a legacy. His dad's a legend in the program, so he's a legacy kid and all that stuff. But it's just it's not a shocking move here,
yeah.
And I think that maybe some people take the commitments too seriously when they know that there's still some days left in the transfer portal.
It's just so interesting to me. So, Colorado had their left tackle Seton go into the portal, right? And the same fan base that makes their whole identity, we get transfer portal players, right? That's our identity. We're the the Louis Vuitton luggage, right? Like bring your bags. And they're getting so hurt over this. I'm like, you guys cheer every time you take a defensive end from Florida, right? But now you get gotten, and all of a sudden it's the worst thing in the world that the portal exists. You can't have it both ways, right? You can't cheer when at least in my opinion, you can't cheer when you get someone and then curse at the guy who's leaving. I mean, right? If you want to be upset, be upset. It's fine. I get it. You could be upset he's leaving. But you can't have it both ways. You can't cheer the additions and then also bemoan when you lose someone. And I think that fans get way too caught up in that too. And so it's funny seeing the reaction from fans. Look, I wish everyone luck when they leave. I might disagree with why they're leaving, but I mean that's not my choice to make.
Yeah, let's get to I think much more interesting things. This might be painful for you. Just bear with me. How and why did it happen that way for Oregon in a semifinal game against Indiana?
It's been so Indiana is so unprecedented, Sean, that there's these cheating rumors that I think are just ridiculous to talk about. But they're so good and thoroughly beating Alabama, Oregon. They beat Ohio State. The people are maybe they're hacking everyone's cloud system.
Yes,
that's how much they're winning by. And Look, I think that the best way to approach a lot of this is, you're never as good or on your best day and as bad as your worst day, right? And that just was a bad Oregon wasn't good, right? I mean, you start the game with a pick six, and what was a bummer on that play was if Dante Moore just looks to the other side of the field, we had a touchdown. They didn't cover our wide receiver running a corner route. Just no one covered him. Chose the wrong side, interception, and then we clawed back 7-7. I was like, sweet, like that's a great response, right? It might have been one of our best drives of the year. And then we fumble a ball because Dante Moore hits the running back. Not Dante Moore's fault. The back doesn't clear him out. Now it's 21-7, and there was just no comeback. The thing Indiana does so well is they're a boa constrictor, dude. The second you start to squirm and feel the heat, start breathing heavy, they just take the life out of you. And they're so good at that. They're so well coached. They're physical. They don't make mistakes ever. They don't turn the ball over. They don't have a ton of bad penalties. They don't have special teams issues. And they're going to win the championship. They're going to beat Miami. And they're going to be the greatest story in the history of college football. There's nothing like this story in the sport, in any sport of college sports before. I mean, the closest would be, I would say, maybe Butler, but they lost to Duke in the championship game, right? Yeah. So that's all for naught. They didn't win the game. This is going to be the greatest story and most improbable story in college football history.
I agree with you. When you talk about them not making mistakes, I think it was already a 3-score game at this point, but there was a Fernando Mendoza scramble where the ball was popped out and Indiana's best offensive lineman, that Coogan kid, went, and he was immediately there. Like, even when it was like, oh, there's a mistake that this could be a big moment. Nope, never mind, because he's hustling after the play and he's running to pick his quarterback up when he gets tackled. And there's a football for me. And it's just like, dang, they really just don't hurt themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and Mendoza got strip sacked, and the ball didn't. Oregon fumbled. We fumbled twice, and both times they recovered the ball, and then they fumbled twice, and both times they recovered the ball. And I thought in that game, like, does the sort of what feels like a little bit of luck. I mean, I think that's part of football. You kind of make your own luck, but there definitely felt like there was a little bit of luck involved with what Indiana was doing with the amount of turnovers that they haven't really had, and some of the plays they made. And no, I mean, they're just good, Sean. I mean, they're just good programming. They're going to win it, and they're going to be untraditional. And I do think the one takeaway is that 2023 Michigan was super old. 2024 Ohio State was super old, and 2025 Indiana is super old.
Right.
I mean, they can't catch a touchdown pass against us, who caught a touchdown pass from Trevor Lawrence in 2020. So at Clemson, by the way, for those who, and Oregon is trying that model next year. They got almost everyone to return, I think, and they're trying to run it back for championship next season. I mean, hope we get it, but it was just a juggernaut, man. Look, when we win a playoff game, we win it, and when we lose, we get our butts kicked, man. That seems to be like the sort of the where we're at right now with the program. And look, it's unfortunate. It stinks that it ended that way, but I think we had something like 17 new starters this year across offense and defense. I think you would take a semifinal berth with all those new pieces around you.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because there's teams that it ends like that, and they're like, well, geez, this sucks because all these guys are graduating, and this was our chance. But you've been talking about it since like week 4 that this isn't really the year for Oregon.
No, it's next year. I mean, and it's so far we are returning on the defensive line 4 guys that are probably top 50 picks into 2027. I think maybe Tudioti's not going to be that high of draft pick, but I mean, you're returning 3 guys through top 4 top 100 guys at the minimum. Like, that's pretty good, right? You're returning a center who's going to draftable center, your quarterback. I don't know if Moore's returning or not. Kind of curious where that sits right now, but we'll find. I mean, it's just a very talented team still. So the question is the depth. You lost like your entire backups to the portal, man. It's kind of crazy how that works now.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things football. Look, I could spend more time on the college football world, but the NFL is a little bit more interesting right now.
Yeah.
great weekend of playoff games. The 49ers somehow win another one.
I know.
Even with George Kittle drinking tequila in the locker room because of an Achilles tear.
Yeah.
And now they've got a tough one against Seattle on Saturday. I mean, I've been asking you for like 5 straight weeks. Can the Niners get it done?
I don't know. I mean, I hate to count them out the way they've been playing. How much do you buy this electromagnetic thing with the Niners practice facility?
Wholeheartedly, all in.
I knew you were all in on that. I knew
all in.
On my podcast yesterday, my co-host is like you. He believes every conspiracy, and he was like all in on the story. And I'm like, Gabe, I don't have anything to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm being somewhat facetious. I really don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor on like electromagnetic radiation on a practice field. But here's the thing.
Story.
Let's say you're a skeptic, all right? Because you are, right? But you own this team, or you're in a position of significant influence. Wouldn't you just be like, man, some of my players are starting to believe this. There's a certain segment of the fan base that's starting to believe this. I got to move this practice field. Like, you just kind of have to do it.
But they've had it's been there for like 35 years. Like, it's not like a thing that, like, they didn't build a practice field when the stadium showed up. The stadium showed up around the practice field. So, like, this is not new. They've had this that they've been next to that facility for 30 years now. That's one thing people don't realize. It's not a new thing. It's not like they built the stadium and put a practice. The practice field has always been there. I was there for a free agent visit way back in the day when they were building Levi Stadium. It's always been there. That's not new. Maybe the electricity output is new. Sean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's not. But it's not new. So okay, now back to the question at hand. I mean, look, geez, I hate to count the Niners, but at some point, the defensive issues are going to matter, right? And you know, Seattle take care of that. I don't know. And then you don't have Kittle, and you still don't have Pearsall, I think, right? Trent Williams did play, which was good. I mean, when Juszczyk is your third leading receiver in a game, probably not great. Like I love his story, but like when he's your third leading receiver, he's a fullback, mind you. Now he's probably more running back-esque than an old school fullback would be, but he's still a fullback, and he's your third leading receiver in a playoff game. Probably not where you want to be. But I don't know if I trust Sam Darnold still. Still a problem of mine there. It's a little trust factor. So I think you have a chance. I mean, look, I wouldn't count out Kyle Shanahan's team, man. Saul's doing a great job. I mean, they're doing as best they can. I give them that. Like, it's been very impressive to see this group play as hard as they're playing, execute the level they have with. We got practice squad linebackers, dude. It's crazy.
Did any result from this weekend surprise you?
I mean, I was wrong on every result. I don't know if that surprised me. I mean, I thought the Chargers would be more competitive. That's probably the one that surprised me the most. I thought they'd be more competitive. I just thought that they were ready to be more competitive in that moment, even with their offensive line. They just weren't. I feel like a dummy for betting, on the Chargers and the Jaguars in a playoff game. But I thought those two sides were the better of the sides. But that the Eagles had not been good on offense for weeks. I don't know why it would start this weekend, and so nothing really surprised me. I think the Chargers just sort of lack of, that was a blowout, but it was a one-score game for most. I saw a tweet last night too that said like that. I hate to tell this to you, but the Steelers are getting blown out down 7-6. like that game was far worse than the final. I guess the final score ended up being a pretty big margin there, but that game wasn't close for most of the game.
Now that job is open, does it change the hierarchy of what top candidates are thinking about? Like, I don't know who is. If John Harbaugh, we go with him as like the number one guy in this coaching market, is now the Pittsburgh Steelers job more appealing than everyone else, Giants and Falcons and whoever else he's talking to?
Well, I mean, I think from a job security, yeah. I mean, you feel they've only had 3 coaches in 70 years, so. From that perspective, absolutely. My concern would be you don't have a quarterback of the future, and you have an older, aging defense. And so those are issues that are going to make it tough to win immediately there. I mean, I don't think you're rolling back with Rodgers, right? So who's your quarterback of the future? No one's available right now, right? That you think you're going to go to the draft. It's not a great draft year for that. And then you have older defensive players. So there's some work to be done on the roster, I think. So I think it's an attractive job just because the Steelers are an organization that takes care of their own, and you don't feel like you're going to be fired for a bad season or two. But yeah, I don't think it's a great job because you don't have a quarterback.
Is Aaron Rodgers going to try to run it back?
He might. I don't know why. I mean, I could try. I would like to have a different job. I mean, anyone wants to hire me. You have to. Someone's got to want to hire you. I don't think Rodgers is very hireable right now. So I would say probably no, and maybe he waits for a situation where someone gets hurt in camp, or maybe I know he wanted to go to the Vikings. I mean, maybe they're so out of McCarthy that he gets a chance to do a 1-year deal there. But I can't imagine that that he has opportunity to do that. You know what I find? I saw this tweet earlier too about Aaron Rodgers. So he's married, and no one knows who his wife is. I've never seen a picture of her. Like,
wait, he's not married to that actress? Weren't they engaged?
No. Yeah, no, someone else. I thought you'd be all over this. No, it's someone else, someone completely different. No one's actually seen a picture of her. Like no one has any idea who she is. What? It's one of my favorite, like, low key Rodgers. Like I see people after press conference like still wearing his wedding ring, never seen his wife. Not one. Like, not like a picture of her. Like nothing. No idea.
Wow, he's not beating the allegations. Holy cow!
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, like
how do you keep?
Look
like,
it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
There's not one picture of her.
So this is funny because there's obviously I'm deep in the combat sports world, and there's one of the most famous fighters, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Even you've heard of Khabib. No one's ever seen his wife, but she lives in the mountains in Dagestan in a culture where you're not supposed to take photos of women. So it makes sense that no one's ever seen her.
Wait, but he's never she's never gone to a fight?
No, they don't. The Dagestani guys, they don't take their women anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to be Dagestani. Don't tell Meredith I said that, please.
Well, she's a big listener to the show, so I'm sure she just heard it.
She'll beat me up. Not good. So there's no look it up. Not one picture of her.
Yeah,
no
I'm looking it up right now. This is a complete mystery, and that's that's very, very convenient and so difficult to pull off in 2026.
Yeah,
pretty crazy. All right, so based on the results from what we saw this past weekend in the NFL playoffs, have your expectations for Super Bowl matchups, AFC, NFC matchups, have they changed at all?
Yeah, I liked the Rams for the longest time, and I don't want to be a flip-flopper, but I think it's going to be Seattle. The Rams just do so many things that lose them games, right? And this game this weekend against the Bears is really interesting because it's going to be like 0 degrees. It's going to be one of the colder games of the weekend, and the Rams are a dome team going outside. I'm actually not that concerned about it. They played in the snow last year in Philly. I'm not worried about it that much, but this game features a team like the Rams who starts fast, a team like the Bears who starts slow, and the Rams blow a ton of late leads, and the Bears come back and score a lot of points late. I'm very curious to see if any of those trends break in this game, where the Rams start fast or start slow, the Bears start fast, and the roles flip, because this feels like a game again where you take the Bears live, plus 17.5, and they come all the way back and claw back into a tie game situation.
All right, let's pretend you actually have a favorite NFL team, all right? And let's pretend that team is in the market for a new head coach. Are you hoping they hire one of the recently fired head coaches that are now available? Do you want a coordinator who's on the rise? Do you want them to go get like a Kurt Cignetti type or any other college coach, like a Marcus Freeman, whatever? Or, I don't know, like a Gruden come off the couch? I put a poll out.
Yeah. So here's my take on this. I don't think you should automatically eliminate defensive coaches. But the problem with a defensive coach with a young quarterback, right? If you in all these jobs have young quarterbacks or need young quarterbacks, is that coach, the defensive coach, right, hires an offensive coach. Okay, that offensive coach does well, they get a job within 2 years. Then you find a new offensive coach, a new OC, right? And the cycle goes on for years and years and years. And the only time it really worked in this manner was the Patriots, right, with Belichick, because McDaniels either was there forever, right, or Charlie Weiss was there forever. And when McDaniels left, he came back immediately. So he was never gone for that long. And so, like if you hire a defensive coach, let's say for the Giants, okay, and Jackson Dart plays out of his world in year one, that head coach is getting a job next year. The OC, I should say, is getting a job. And you have to hire another offense coordinator. It's very hard with a defensive coach to ensure you have the coaches staying with you, where it's not as hard offensively because the offensive play caller is simply the head coach, right, Sean? So that I think is what you have to consider, is that if we get a defensive coach, do we understand that every couple of years we might need a new offensive coordinator, and that's really tough to to basically pull off every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. All right, I'm over time. I got to let you go, bud. Thanks for your time, as always.
Your long rant on people being nice on social media killed my segment. It's okay.
I'm sorry about
still
that.
love you. Still love you anyways.
I'm sorry we only gave you 23 minutes today.
I'm sorry. I appreciate it. By the way, have you said hi to Jordan Gross for me? He has not answered me yet. I'm not bothering him yet.
I tried to, but he was on the other side of glass, and I was pantomiming at him, and he wouldn't come in and jump on the show. So not yet. I'll tell him though.
All right. Bye, guys.
Later.
Bye, buddy.
That's Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, heartbreaker for his Ducks in the college football playoff semifinal. A guy who follows a team that a lot of people are really high on. JB Long is going to join us next. Can the Rams beat the Bears? And who will they play in the NFC Championship if they can advance past this weekend? We'll get to all of that on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. NFL playoffs can be heard right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, Saturday and Sunday. And you might just hear this person's voice. JB Long, voice of the Rams, going to join us for a few minutes here to talk about how the Rams got here for their matchup with the Bears, playing for a shot at an NFC championship berth. JB Long, welcome to the show. How are you?
Sean, good to connect with you. I'm doing great. Hope you're having a good day and a good show.
Yeah, so far we're getting close to the end here. Wanted to catch up with you. This Rams team had a tough test against Carolina, and you've been tweeting about this, and it's actually right at the top of your feed for people who don't follow JB Long. It's JB_Long. Carolina is one of those teams that surprised a lot of people this year, but I don't feel like the Rams were going to be surprised because of the regular season matchup and because of how McVay and his team prepare as coaches. Did anything surprise you how difficult this game was in the playoffs for the Rams?
A little bit, only because I think the Rams were healthy at the right spots to go out and do some damage, and because they set the tone so early with that 2-touchdown lead thanks to Puka Nacua and Matthew Stafford. But, as you know, styles make fights, and I think the style of Carolina is such that they're able to drag Los Angeles into the mud a little bit, beat them Thanksgiving weekend, and nearly got them again in the wild card round. So I think LA is glad to be through that hurdle. I understand they were the biggest road favorite of the wild card weekend, and that the expectations are that they would have won by 2 scores, and I think their body of work justified that. But Bryce Young played arguably the 2 best games of his career against this Los Angeles defense, and when he does that, when he goes punch for punch with someone like Matthew Stafford, I think you tip your cap, you celebrate the right to survive in advance, and you get on to the next style and the next fight, which is the Chicago Bears.
Everyone here loves Puka. Puka had another huge day, 10 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. It feels like you can't help but make him a big part of your offensive game plan. Will it look any different against the Bears than what we've seen most of the year and last week against Carolina?
Well, since I'm largely preaching to the choir, I'll just go ahead and say he should be the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year. He probably won't be. I'm guessing JSN will win that award, but 3 sensational seasons for Puka Nacua, deserving first-team All-Pro. I know a wide receiver will never win the MVP award anymore. That's a quarterback award, but I think he is equally deserving as Matthew Stafford. His impact has been outsized. As for what he's going to be able to do this weekend at Soldier Field, we'll see. I think the conditions and the elements are going to play a big factor in that. If it's sub-freezing with the wind chill and if winds are gusting, it could be a difficult night throwing the football. But that's where having, a Clydesdale like Puka Nacua helps, because unlike a lot of true number 1 receivers, he can do it all. If he has to fit up in your running game and play as a fullback or a tight end on Sunday night, then that's what he'll do, and he'll impact winning that way. If he takes a jet sweep handoff and gets a corner for a first down in crunch time, we've seen him do that as well. And if you have to go to him in a 3rd or 4th down situation or in the red zone, no matter how cold his hands have been, as trusty as any in the National Football League. I know he dropped one going into halftime that should have been a touchdown, but believe me when I say that is the exception that proves the rule for Puka's 3rd season.
We started the show today talking about how good is sometimes the enemy of great because of what's going on with the Steelers. And obviously, Mike Tomlin, during our show, the news break that Mike Tomlin is stepping down, so there will be a head coaching change with Pittsburgh. But I thought that was a good example of, like, no one will debate whether or not he's a good coach or even a very, very good coach. But the debate was being had, especially in Pittsburgh, about whether or not he was still a great coach who could help your team achieve great things. And you've been around the Rams when they've been good, when they've been not so good, and when they've been great, when they've won a Super Bowl. Is there any decision made along the way that you could point to that separated good from being great? That they were like, you know what, we'll make this hard decision and maybe take a risk that we're getting rid of something good in order for us to have the chance of being great. Is there anything in your tenure that you can point to?
Well, how about something as recent as moving on from one of the greatest receivers in franchise history, Cooper Kupp, in favor of, as it would turn out, Devontae Adams? Does that qualify for the conversation you're having?
100%.
Because, Devontae, despite missing the last 3 games of the regular season, has more receiving touchdowns than anyone in the league this year. It wasn't particularly close. And as much as the Rams felt his impact on 3rd down and in the red zone, I think he freed Puka up to do what he does best within this system. to play in the slot, to be in motion, to be the queen chess piece on the board that Sean McVay can deploy situationally and on a game-by-game basis. So, yeah, Tomlin and McVay are now on the short list. Andy Reid's there too. Harbaugh's, part of the conversation, guys who have earned the right to iterate and to evolve as coaches and as leaders for multiple years and multiple cycles in the NFL. Normally, the league does not allow for that. Normally, you have to do something special to make it past year two. And so here we are in the cycle with, what does it feel like, nearly half of the league turning over at that all-important position. But I get why, and not specific to Harbaugh or Tomlin or anyone else, but I think coaching in football matters more than in any other sport. There's a reason why Cignetti has Indiana worst to first and competing for a national championship in college football, right? You can really move the needle if you find the right person. And just like every NFL team is trying to find that franchise quarterback, now equally, I would say they're trying to find, the CEO or the coordinator head coach who can impact winning consistently on Sundays.
JB Long for another couple of minutes here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking Rams and all things NFL. I'm asking every NFL guest this, so I've got to ask you. There are a ton of head coaching openings, and not all jobs in the NFL are created equal, even though there are only 32 of them, and that's the pinnacle of the profession. Somebody calls you and says, hey, we want you to be the head coach of whichever of these teams you get to pick. What's the best job? Which one are you taking?
Well, I thought for sure there'd be a 49ers question coming along the way there, knowing where your colors rest. But we'll get there soon, right?
We'll get there, yeah.
The answer to this current question, I think, is Baltimore for me. How many jobs have an MVP caliber quarterback, proven, waiting in his prime, pretty solid culture, pretty solid tradition, a front office that drafts extraordinarily well? That's a situation that I would love to walk into. Personally, especially as the division turns over. Is Zach Taylor the only coach left in that division? I believe so.
That's
so
right.
There you have it. You could walk right in and kind of not start over, but pretty clearly draw a line in the sand and say, hey, this is a division that we can rule again.
All right, time to get to my Niners, but there's a Rams element to this question. Most of the people we've talked to have said that it's the Rams Super Bowl to win, or now some people are skewing towards Seattle, and obviously the Niners have to try to get by Seattle. They just played them last week, didn't work out, and now you got to do it without George Kittle. What's your outlook on that Niners-Seahawks playoff game, because you know both of these teams well?
Yeah, well, if I had my druthers, they would have played on Friday. Why'd they give them all the way until Saturday, Sean? It seems like too long a rest for your San Francisco 49ers.
It's the worst turnaround possible. They're trying to get the Niners out of there.
Pretty impressive what Shanahan and Purdy and McCaffrey have done. Solid equally. I mean, my goodness, he's basically coordinating a defense with one hand tied behind his back, and the fact that they're in the final eight, super impressive. I'll just call attention to this fact, too. The NFC West has 3 of the final 4 seats at the NFC table. I don't think any of us are surprised, but, that to me was the best division in the league going into this season and proved to be as such. I think the coaches, the coordinators, the quarterbacks all led me in that direction, even though everyone was still high on the NFC North, and I understand that one as well. But, a bespoke game plan can do anything, and no one is better at that than Kyle Shanahan. But this Seattle defense is real, and I know you know that, and I know you saw it in person just a couple of weeks ago. I think Mike McDonald has perfectly orchestrated this defense. It's a defense that was built to derail the Shanahan-McVay offenses, and they have the pieces to do it. So as valiant, as impressive as San Francisco's season has been, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes to an end this weekend. That being said, if they crack the door open for the Rams to host another NFC Championship game at SoFi Stadium against the rival from up north, that'd be pretty cool too.
What is most dangerous about this Chicago Bears team for the Rams?
2 things come to mind immediately. Their downhill running game, their ability to shorten a game, especially in cold conditions, against a roster that I know loves to get play count up. And then Caleb's ability to play off schedule. Bryce Young did a little bit of that against them last week. I think they do generate a ton of pressure, but in terms of hemming a quarterback in the pocket and making him beat you on schedule, That's not always been the strength of this Rams defense, and to see Caleb do it a couple of times against the Packers in the cold recently, those kind of secondary actions, the creating when the play breaks down, there's a reason the Rams are favored, but I think if there's a path to victory for Caleb and the Bears, it's that. It's extending drives. It's, converting on key third and fourth downs, even if the wizardry of Ben Johnson doesn't do it initially. Caleb has the ability to create himself.
JB, appreciate you giving us a few minutes today. Have a great call, and I'll hope for that Niners-Rams NFC Championship matchup.
Well, I'm just hoping that the Rams are a part of it next weekend because we're going to get frostbite one way or another pursuing it.
Yeah, stay warm.
All right, see ya. Have a good show.
JB Long, voice of the Rams. You can hear his radio broadcast right here on the ESPN family of networks. Is that game going to be on ESPN 792.1 FM? Where is that going to be?
So we don't have the home broadcast.
Oh, that's right. We have the national broadcast.
Yeah, so that's always on the Fan.
Okay.
103.9, 98.3 on the FM dial. So that's where you can hear JB Long, Maurice Jones-Drew, DeMarco Farr, and the home Rams broadcast. But we will have the national broadcast via Westwood One here on ESPN 792.1 FM. So if you're a Rams fan, maybe you want to tune in to the Fan for the local flavor. If you're an NFL fan, want to tune into this game, maybe you want to listen to the national flavor of things. Maybe you want to sample both. We got you covered here on Utah's ESPN Radio Network.
All right, one last segment of the Sean O'Connell Show, and we have some prizes to give away. Auto Expo tickets coming up this weekend at the Mountain America. Is that right? America First. Which one is it? Mountain America Expo Center. And what else we have to give away? Big Willie gift card. Big Willie's gift card. If you can answer a trivia question at 877-353-0700. The Auto Expo, by the way, at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy goes from Friday to Sunday. Giving those away next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. All right, we had some breaking news today on the Sean O'Connell Show. One thing came from the NFL, Mike Tomlin stepping down as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. 877-353-0700 for a Big Willie's gift card and 2 tickets to the Utah Auto Expo down in Sandy this weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had how many coaches since 1969? How many men have been the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach since 1969? 877-353-0700. 2 tickets to the Utah Auto Expo at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, and a Big Willie's gift card if you have the right answer to that. The other piece of breaking news was delivered by Devin Dampier himself. He is returning officially for the 2026 season to the University of Utah. He did it with just a perfect announcement tweet that was an AI edit of a very famous scene from The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not leaving. But the very beginning of that tweet and the video that accompanied it featured none other than, I guess now we have to say, the face of Utah football, Spence Checketts.
People are saying that, and people are also saying that I'm responsible for Devin coming back. Now, I'm not. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that.
Are people are saying that?
No one yet. But
okay.
I think as
they could be saying.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I haven't talked to everybody. Somebody might be saying that. But I think as this story unfolds, and I want to be clear, I don't want all the credit. That's not the type of guy I am. But, you know, like if you loop me into the reasoning as to why Devin is coming back next year, I can see why you would make that connection.
Why would he put you as the first face to be seen on his return announcement if it's not because of you?
Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't like to make this about me. I want to be clear. This is not me making this about me. This is me reacting to other people making this about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
So I'm honored, humbled even, to be, you know, part of one of the biggest stories in Utah football. Well, some people are saying history, Sean. Again.
Okay. Wow.
Well, again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that.
I need to know who these some people are, because we should have some discussions with them.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, it's big news. It's a very unique situation.
Yeah.
That Kevin McGibbon and Morgan Scalley and this University of Utah coaching staff get to deal with, where you have 2 guys who are bona fide quarterback talents who know the situation and are willing to engage in a competition or a dual quarterback system or whatever. And that is so incredibly rare in college football these days. And I think it's a testament to the young men themselves and obviously to what this coaching staff has been able to do in a short time.
Well, and as you and I discussed, when the information came in that it was Kevin who was going to be hired, it was easy to draw a parallel between Kevin's offense and Jason's offense. They're 2 different guys, but there are a lot of similarities with what Kevin was able to do with Bryson Barnes. And look, all due respect to our guy, the pig farmer, love me some Bryson. You know, Devin is twice the athlete and the player Bryson is. So we still need to they still need to build.
And so is Bird. So now he's got 4 times.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and this is a fan base, quite frankly, over the past 24 hours that needed a little bit of good news.
Goodness gracious.
We got a lot of meltdowns going on online. Be kind, stay offline, as my old producer, John Paul Chunga, used to say. And you know, how much of Devin's decision to come back was tied to Kevin's offense? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he got taken care of as far as the money portion of it. But look, this is a big box to check. You know, you have your quarterback, you have your backup. And as we've learned in this market over the past 5, 6, 7 years, you need at least 2 proficient quarterbacks in college football. So big day for Utah football and a fan base that, like I said, needed a little good news.
Yeah, really cool to see. And the possibilities with an innovative play caller make this truly exciting.
Yeah.
Like in a way that depth is wonderful, but they're both too good to have one guy on the sideline while the other one is playing.
Yeah.
And this year's coaching staff knew that, and that's why you saw Bird score 10 touchdowns for the Utes.
Right.
And why you saw him start when he needed to. But, yeah, I'm excited to know how these 2 are going to be used in conjunction with one another and how they're going to compete against one another as well, because they're great friends off the field.
Yeah.
And it's just it's neat, and it's good news for the University of Utah.
And also, and look, this is a year-by-year sport, so it's hard to look ahead, you know, at all, quite frankly, let alone a couple of years down the road. But if these 2, you know, continue to follow this path they're on, we have a succession plan for when Devin leaves and Bird can slide in there as a starter, as a guy that knows the system. Again, year-by-year sport. I understand the deal.
I'm going to avoid succession plan and Utah football being connected for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, sadly, that's the space to live in. I know BYU thinks they have theirs with Bear Bachmeier and Ryder Lyons. So, that would be ideal if you could get that to play out, but not even a year-by-year sport. It's like a day-by-day sport at this point until they actually get things solidified. As we're seeing over the past, the transfer portal has 2 more days, 3 more days?
Friday's when it closes.
Friday is when it closes. So still time to add. Unfortunately, still time to have taken from as well. But I'm really hoping, and this is a pie-in-the-sky optimistic view, but you know me. I'm a positive thinker. I'm all about optimism and spreading love. I mean, again,
people are saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sean, that's not coming from me. That is coming from others. And for the people that have said that, thank you, sincerely. If this transfer portal cycle with contracts that have been signed and then gone back upon, if this doesn't open the eyes, and I'm going to say the decision makers, I don't even know who they are at this point.
Yeah, who would that be?
Yes, somebody who can kind of corral this thing. It is a sport that has so much potential that it's so broken and it's still so awesome. You know what I mean? Like, if you just get some things in place, college football could throw punches with the NFL as far as popularity and numbers go. I mean, the NFL has carved out this piece of real estate in the minds of just Americans, not just sports fans. I was talking to Ian Eagle yesterday, name drop, on the show, and there's a random playoff game. I'll get a text from my aunt, like, hey, are you watching the Rams? I'm like, you're 87. She just loves watching football. You know, but if there's a second most popular sport in America, it's college football. And if you can just fix it in a way that doesn't cause so much chaos every offseason, who knows how high it could fly.
Yeah, and, we got 1 game left in this college football season, and then we're going to be talking about the chaos of the offseason. That's going to drive conversation on these shows. It's a year-round sport now.
Yeah, it is.
Because the offseason is a circus. And Utah found a way today with the announcement of Devin Dampier staying to calm down the potential circus nature of the next few days.
Yeah.
So, knock on wood, it stays there.
Yeah, still questions along the offensive line, of course. Still questions along the defensive line. And you lost a couple of more pieces over the past 72 hours that we all thought would be, we thought Celeste would step in right away and play both sides of the ball. So, and you're looking – as far as the composite rankings go, wherever you go, 247 ESPN, BYU's loading up. I mean, they haven't lost very much. They get an all-ACC linebacker with 26 starts. They signed 3 offensive linemen yesterday. And look, I'll just repeat this. For whatever the reasons were that led Kyle Whittingham to Ann Arbor, you took a real calculated risk by moving on to a new era. And I'm just going to continue to preach that we're going to have to be a little bit patient here. I'm approaching next year with confidence in Morgan and then a space inside of me that's like, okay, it's going to take him a little bit to build this thing up the way he wants to.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Yeah.
And we'll, I guess, work together in trying to lay that foundation.
Yeah.
Like, I will do the same thing everyone else does, and if it's a 6-win season, I'll freak out.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's going to be an 11-win season in someone's first year as a head coach.
For sure.
But you're going to be in the conversation for some important things, including big-time players these next 3 days in the transfer portal, and we'll stay on top of it. Stay tuned for The Drive with Spence Checketts. By the way, since 1969, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had 3 guys: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, and now John Harbaugh? ? Stay tuned for The Drive. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN